Factz with Adam Curry for September 1st, 2021, episode number 65. Yes, we are back with a new month, a new round, a new incredible energy. After all, I'm Adam Curry here in the hill country of Texas, and my friend on the other end is somewhere in Northern Virginia. Good to talk to him again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Moe Factz.
How you doing, Adam?
Well, I'm doing great, Mo. It's so good to speak with you again.
It's been ages.
It has. Well, we're trying to get our crap together, trying to get back on track. And we have the perseverance, that's for sure.
That is for sure. And we do have a full bag for the people as well.
Yes.
Which I know that's the only thing they care about, really. You know what I'm saying?
They really do. So let's wind up that wheel, the wheel of topics. Let's see what we're going to be talking about today on Moe Factz with Adam Curry, episode number 65. Where it stops, nobody knows, except, of course, for Mo. He knows exactly what we're going to talk about today. The topic for Moe Factz 65 is...
disgraced actor and comedian Bill Cosby.
Yeah, this is one we had to do. That whole Bill Cosby thing came at such a weird time in the timeline of life, with everything going on with Corona and with Rona, with the COVID and with just everything. It was like all of a sudden and then there was that.
And then there wasn't. And that's
right.
One of the most fascinating
and there wasn't.
That
exactly.
It came and then it went.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure this is probably off a lot of people's radars now, but as you know, I like to take a topic and go all the way through, kind of explain the backstory to this. One hell of a man, Bill Cosby, if I have to say so myself. But I only know him as Bill Cosby, the TV show, Fat Albert, and those things, right? We don't know who these people are.
And the Jell-O, Bill Cosby from the Jell-O.
Right. The kids say the darndest things. I mean, he has and then even when you go back to his earlier movies, so Ghost Dad and even before then. So we don't know these people. But what I would like to do more instead of getting into the nuts and bolts of the case is to get into the narrative behind the whole story with Bill Cosby, how he was used, if he was used, and why he was used, if he was indeed used.
Well, come on now, Mo. It would be a very short show if he wasn't used. We all know you got something up your sleeve. You kind of gave it away there.
No, it's he might be the puppeteer. I mean, who knows? You see what I'm saying? So what we have to do is,
well, without a doubt, at one point in the 80s, in the late 80s, 90s, he was one of the most powerful people in show business.
And this is why this is one of my most anticipated shows, one of my most gut-wrenching shows, because and with all, just to lay it all out there, up until this point of these stories coming along, he was one of my favorite people. I mean, like I said, when I mean favorite people as who he portrayed in my childhood and growing up, I have no clue who Bill Cosby is as a person. But what he projected out, we can't deny what impact he had not only on Black Americans, ADOS, but also just the Americans that grew up in that time of the 80s. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, even before the 80s, really. But, right. Oh, yeah. Same for me. Like the Cosbys, you watched that. You stayed home. You watched the Cosbys. And that's why I don't think people really understand is the fact we don't have that now except for sports, where everybody stops what they're doing to tune into something in television. And that was like a shared consciousness,
Do you think we had that with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in a similar manner?
I think every pre-DVD, pre-DVR.
Right.
It was like you had to catch it, or, we had VHS, but pre-DVR where you could just mash a button and it would record.
Right.
We were all locked in. That was kind of like what the internet and social media is now. How we experience something.
The water cooler. Yeah.
Right. Or even the phone call afterwards. I mean, that was one thing I remember, like, as soon as it went off, like the phone would ring. You're like, did you see that? And not just necessarily with this show, but in general.
Well, then, yeah, of course, with any. And then, my sisters would be like, get off the phone.
Right.
I'm expecting a call.
So with all that said, I guess what we need to do is get into the media coverage of Bill Cosby being released.
Good day. We're coming back on the air with more breaking news about Bill Cosby. The comedian was just released from prison after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned the 83-year-old actor's sex assault conviction. Cosby served more than 2 years of a 3 to 10-year sentence, convicted of drugging and molesting Temple University employee Andrea Constant. NBC Justice correspondent Pete Williams joins us. Pete, what can you tell us about the legal reasoning that led to this decision?
Well, the court says the facts are very straightforward, that when the victim initially came forward, the district attorney decided not to file charges, that there were too many problems with the evidence, and that he publicly made a statement that he would not pursue these charges, and that he did so in order to free up the possibility that Cosby could be forced to testify in a civil trial that she filed against him later, and that he could not in that civil trial then invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination because he was told by the district attorney and believed the advice of his own lawyers that anything he said in the civil trial could not be used against him in the criminal trial if the state tried it again. So he did testify, he did incriminate himself, he said things that were incriminating in the civil trial, and then the district, the state of Pennsylvania came back and charged him with the crime. What the Supreme Court said today is you can't do that.
Right, and I think the technicality is correct, or the analysis of it.
And I'm no lawyer. I'm leaning on my Law and Order and Suits law degree to know. But that was the understanding that if you sign a deal, even in my low legal analysis, is that if you sign a deal, then the deal can't be welched on. Right. Used against you. And that's the whole premise behind this. And this is one of those things that was a real mind trick for people. It's like, hold on. Well,
it was also because of that testimony he gave that everything was so shocking, and all of the allegations, without ever really having gone through the whole proceedings, just rang true.
Yeah. And that's the thing. What did he admit to? Because as you're going to see, there was a very sleight of hands done with what he actually confessed to, and how they used that confession as a open and shut case to railroad him off to jail.
Oh, why does this not surprise me?
And we can have I want people. Can we get a trigger warning first of all? Because this is a very triggering topic. I'm sorry about that. I know I caught you off guard, but this is a very triggering topic.
I think you're absolutely right.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Your attention, please. Trigger warning has been activated.
Now, are you going to go back to the reasons why he was convicted in the first place? And we're going to go through some of them. We must, I guess, right?
Well, just not in the details of the case, because I believe, and just like most lawyers would believe, the case should have never took place. And so I'm not going to really get into the cases where he did it, he didn't do it,
right? That
kind of thing. I want to get into why was this allowed to happen
the way it did,
in the way that it did, when it's clear as day from my Law and Order legal degree.
Yes, I saw the same thing immediately. Like, this is clearly a violation of procedure.
Right. So everybody was waiting for somebody to step in, but like, oh no, you can't do that. But 2-3 years later, he's in jail.
Thank you for doing this, Mo, because no one's going to do this. This is like the guy's guilty, done, cut and dry. He's rich, so he got off on the technicality. I mean, that I think is the narrative that people are kind of. There's a lot more stuff that they got to worry about these days, but I think if you asked anybody, they'd be kind of, yeah, that's kind of what happened with him, and they don't care anymore, I'm sure.
And two things could be true, right? He could be accused, actually did. I'm not going to use the word guilty, but he could actually have done what he's accused of doing, but still not by our rules and laws of America.
Yes,
not been convicted of it due to. I don't think this would be considered double jeopardy. I think it was the fact that he testified under the understanding that he wouldn't be. It couldn't.
Yeah, it's a Fifth Amendment right. It's
correct,
you don't have to incriminate yourself. And going into this show, I'm of the opinion both can be true.
Right.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Right. And I think a lot of people are that now. To what extent?
Right.
Because I don't want to get too far into it, but that's the layout of the first maybe third of the show, is just looking at why was this allowed to happen to him when it's clear as day. If me and you was his lawyers, we could have got him off. If we're going by the law.
Well, yes, going by the law, not going by media, because the media was just cutting him down. That was just done. We got the women coming out. The timing was right. It was, Weinstein stuff in the picture all over the place.
Yes. Goggles carry. Goggles.
Sorry about that.
No. From the future, man. But
sorry.
Not to belabor this clip, but I just want to point out that he actually was agreed to testify because he couldn't use the Fifth Amendment as his protection in a civil trial.
Right.
So it's like he got double screwed because you told me that I couldn't be used against me in the criminal trial. So I'll tell you what I know in the civil trial, and I'm sure he had to pay out for the civil trial.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and get,
They used it in the criminal trial.
Right. So that was just a fascinating, and this is where if you want to divide it down a race line, and even down a gender line, the race was like, black people were like, some black people, as you're going to see, were like, hold on, well, you can't do that. I'm saying that's not justice. But as we talked about on this show, justice is not what we think justice is, at all. And then down the gender line, it's like, well, yet again, you have some men that say, well, even if he did do it by the law, he shouldn't be tried for it. So just to lay that out. So I'm glad. Just want to get the context of what we're talking about here, so we can go ahead and get into the clip number 3.
You can't do that. You made him. You gave him a reason to believe that he could testify at the civil trial without putting himself in jeopardy of the criminal prosecution. The Pennsylvania court said our sense of fair play and decency compels us to believe that the district attorney had to stand by the decision that was made by a predecessor in the office not to charge. So that's the reasoning of the court. The outcome, Lester, is that he cannot be tried again on these charges. That means that the woman at the center of this case, she can't be the subject of another criminal prosecution. This one is over. Now, that doesn't mean that other victims could come forward and the state could investigate and decide whether or not to pursue criminal charges based on entirely different facts, but there can't be a retrial on this case.
We know that there were other women who testified of what they thought was similar behavior against them. There's a statute of limitations issue. Would that prevent some of these cases from going forward?
Potentially, and the court doesn't explicitly says here that they're not making any decision about any other potential case or any of the testimony that was offered in the civil trial. They simply say that issue isn't before us and we're not going to answer it.
Yeah, this whole thing really stinks. I mean, it kind of passed us by, again, it was like, what? Okay.
Because it was perfect, and you'll see how it was perfect when it first ramped up, was right at the beginning of the election cycle of 2016.
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of got faded there, and then through the whole Trump, administration,
everyone's doing other stuff.
Right. But Trump was a victim of the same thing Bill Cosby was, and the same thing is what now we're seeing with Deshaun Watson, the football player down in Houston, and even to the extent of Tiger Woods. And what that is when one victim comes out, there's this floodgate of women that say, oh, yeah, me too, not no pun intended, that
well, at the
he
time,
did something to me.
It was literally Me Too. Harvey Weinstein. I mean, there was a lot of Me Too going on.
Right. But what I'm saying is this feeds into, this is why we do the show. Because whenever you see a black man accused of some kind of sexual assault in this manner, of that level, let me be clear, of that level of celebrity, there's always a floodgate to follow it. And that's why I said with Deshaun Watson, I think he's up to 20, 30 women. I see. Trump experienced the bottom.
Right. Now I see what you're saying. The floodgate is not more men being accused, but that man being accused by more women.
Right. And like you saw it with Trump, and that Trump experienced the bottom, right? It was, 45 Savage because I don't want to trigger anybody. But it was another person.
No, he had
person,
20. It was like 20 or something. Yeah.
Right. And those are criminal or civil or I would say assault.
Well, dude, his before he was, he was just president and was already golden shower with Russian hookers. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of accusations.
Right. So this the same, but in the same time, he wasn't hauled off to jail like Bill Cosby was on when I say trumped up charge, I mean that the fact of his protections of his Fifth Amendment, right, were violated, and nobody stepped up to save Bill.
Right.
Nobody.
But Cosby actually got arrested.
Right. Arrested, perp walked. And we see how this stuff normally works. Normally it works in somebody his caliber. The lawyer picks up the phone. Hey, Bill's going to come through the back door at 5 p.m.
Right.
And we're going to get this. When you see the perp walks, and I want to lay it out and juxtapose it to when you see people like, what's the guy's name that Trump's got arrested for? Got arrested for Trump. Manaforts. You see Roger Stones. It's like 6 a.m, boom, kicking down the door, hauling them out. You know what I'm saying? When you see that is a media spectacle. And that's what was done to Bill.
Right.
And I want to make this last point is with Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods did nothing illegal.
No, he just had an affair.
Well, what same thing? It was 18, 20, 27, 30 women. Come on, I was Tiger Woods' girlfriend. So when you see these things, this plays on the.
And I just want to say, just as a guy, now moving up on 57 years, I know a lot of men, celebrities, who have a lot of sexual relations with a lot of women.
Correct.
So I'm not saying that didn't happen.
No, but I'm saying the way it was covered. Mm-hmm. They were saying and they do this thing. You see it in the media where the front page is like picture, like block at the block of women. And it's like, this is his hit list. Mm-hmm. But this plays into the narrative that specifically black men are sexual predators, and which plays into the history of lynching and all the other stuff that comes with it. So don't let that be lost on you.
No, I hear you.
When this is seen, it's like, what the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? Like, you don't see Les Moonves or none of these people perp walked and, treated in the manner that a Bill Cosby is. And we're still saying that two things can be true at the same time. Yeah. So now we're going to go over to CBS.
Harvey Weinstein did get perp walked.
Well, of course, he was giving up. I mean, you know how it goes. Like, we always talk about Soros, right? Yeah. Soros is not pulling all the strings in the New World Order, right? Somebody got to draw the short straw. I think the same thing with Madoff, right? Madoff ran all this by himself. Come on. I mean, I think they sit in the room. Either it's like, okay, you got to take this case.
Sorry, Bernie.
Right. You know what I'm saying? You got to take this case. And it's like, well, my kid's going to be all right. Yeah. My grandkids. Yeah, they're good. All right, I'll take it. Or it's, who can we put up on the altar to be sacrificed? Mm-hmm. I don't know which case it is, but I just think these people are representative of a problem that they're trying to present as being taken care of.
Well, and that's with all organized crime, I guess.
Of course. Yeah. Weebay took all the cases in the wire. Yeah. Some more potato
exactly. I was thinking I didn't want to say it, but yes. Ever since I've seen the wire, now I get it.
Got you. Got them. We got them, folks.
All the way.
All right. So let's get into, now we're going to go over to CBS This Morning with Gail, and she's speaking to Gloria Allred.
We are joined now by Janice Baker Kenney, who took the stand as a witness in Bill Cosby's 2018 trial. She testified that she was sexually assaulted by the actor in the 80s. And her lawyer, Gloria Allred, who represents dozens of women who have accused Bill Cosby of assault. Good morning to you both. Janice, I want to start with you because last night it was reported that you were processing this latest turn of events. What's your reaction today and how are you feeling?
Well, good morning, Gail. I'm still processing everything that's going on. I just need to remember now, and it's almost like a mantra for me, that he was released on a legal technicality and not because he's innocent. He is not innocent. He'll never be innocent, and I need to hold on to that.
So what would justice look like to you now? Because he is claiming that he is innocent. He is claiming that justice has been served.
He's going to always claim he was innocent. That story has never changed. But the 60 plus women that have come forward, we all know the truth. So his legacy, will never be what it used to be. So a little bit of justice served there. He did serve 2 years, a little bit of justice in the fact that he is a disgraced former America's dad. And I can live with that.
Wow. Yeah. That was unnecessary roughness on the play.
If you want to take down the patriarchy,
you might as well do it that way, huh? Let's bring down America's dad. Yeah.
America's dad. Yeah. That's what this is all about. It does have tinges of race to it, just because of who was the victims or alleged victims and who is the perpetrator. But I think this was a design hit on the patriarchy itself, being she's not America's black dad.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? This wasn't, Bill Cosby was America's dad. If you had any family, especially in the black community, the father was intact and they were productive. I was like, they're like the Cosbys. That was a literal statement, because I'm an example of one of those cases. Like my family was called like, oh, y'all like the Cosbys. Seriously. Well,
I think in my family, we probably, certainly to my dad, said, why can't you be more like Mr. Huxtable?
Right, and that's, if you want to take down the patriarchy, you got to come at the top dad.
Interesting. And even in this, she said that he has not admitted anything. It was something like he'll always say he's not. He's always say he's innocent. I'm glad you're doing this, because I really have no other knowledge other than he admitted to something really crappy that he did, and that's why he went in, and is for all the technicality is why he's getting out. But that at some point he did admit to something really bad.
And that's the point right there, is what did he admit to? The fact that you can't tell me right offhand, and you are a media deconstructionist, you're saying, by trade?
Yep.
Well, that was never discussed what he admitted to. It's just that he admitted to it. It's like what did he admit to? He admitted to it. And if he admitted to it, then he has to be guilty. But it's like, what did he admit to? And we're going to get to that, but I just want to get this. It's two memes is going to go. The thing that he admitted to it, they're just going to run with that. They never pull out the transcripts. And if they had ironclad stuff in there that says, I did everything you're accusing me of, and but I'm going to say it in a civil trial to protect myself from legal
ramifications.
From legal ramifications, then I'll admit to it, right? But he never said that. The media never said that, and they never rolled out the transcripts and showed what it exactly admitted to. No. It's just that he admitted to it, but what? And then the other thing is that legal technicality. Right. Well, if you should never been on trial, is that a technicality? I mean, like, actually, but they're going to run these two memes into the ground. So I just want to make people aware. Like I said, I know this may be triggering to some people, but the reason why we do this is because there's a deeper story there. And there is many characters, one being Mr. Gloria Allred. So let's hear from her in clip number 5.
Gloria, it's Anthony. In your view, is this decision a setback to the MeToo movement?
No, Anthony, I don't think it is at all. There are many women who continue to come forward, many persons who allege that they are victims, for example, of R. Kelly, of Harvey Weinstein in Los Angeles, of many other figures. And women are now empowered in the way they never were before. Janice was very brave when she testified. I'm so proud of her. And it is, a shock. But it's also very clear that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court did not make a decision that Mr. Cosby did not do what he was accused of doing. It was based on a legal technicality, on issues of due process, and it was not based on the merits and the evidence as to whether he did it or not. Actually, to the contrary, the court talked about the statements that Mr. Cosby made in the deposition in the civil lawsuit brought by Andrea Constant and called those statements incriminating.
Gloria, you represent an accuser in California who's filed a civil case against Bill Cosby. Does this decision affect that case in any way?
We're going to find that out.
Okay.
But Gloria Allred's very fascinating character here.
Oh, yes. Very familiar with her.
She represents 33 of the Bill Cosby accusers.
Of course.
Now, Allred. Now, I'm about to go here. It was saying I didn't prep you for the theorem, but but it's going to get there. Allred. Is she the Red Queen? Red Queen means...
Yeah,
and as in the game of chess, or saying it's the Red Queen is able to move swiftly and effortlessly. And then the other thing about that is she's viewed as an antagonist in the story, as she's the queen for the side opposing Alice. See, who is Gloria Allred?
I'm throwing it in for you now.
I appreciate that.
I like it. I mean, I have really come around to the witchcraft and the spells of the world, Mo. I mean, right down to the Pfizer name change on their vaccine. Like, these are all spells.
Right.
So,
and
yeah.
The reason why I say is she the Red Queen, because is she really working to take these powerful men down, or is she just a person in the role to play a certain role, is that she's actually portraying a role?
She's a hired gun. She's a hired gun. She'll do whatever she needs to.
In what way do you mean that? I just came out of curiosity.
This is what she does. She represents almost class action level suits of women against men. I mean, this is what I've seen her do throughout her career.
Certain men. And are you aware who her daughter is?
Yes. Also a lawyer. I forget.
Lisa Bloom.
Yeah.
She's an American attorney.
Yeah. Known
for advising Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
Amid sexual abuse allegations. Now, hold on it. How is it that you're for women's rights and Me Too, and your daughter's over here? She's also does the same similar kind of work, but when Harvey Weinstein needs to be advised, they work to advise them.
Yeah. No, this was very controversial at the time.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, just like who are these people? And what roles are they playing? And I just find it out. I mean, you might say Allred. I mean, that's her name. And she actually plays into that with her attire. She's always wearing red.
That's correct. Which is a very power move to have a suit like that. I mean, in general, I would say if Allred or Bloom come your way, you need to leave. You just need to get out of the way. If you see those two come and leave, I've always felt that way about them.
And then my other question is, did they bring, and this is just a wild question to most, did they let Bill Cosby out so they could run him through the mill again on the civil trials before he passes away? When he dies, his catalog's going to go up in value. It's like, do we milk him now while he's still living? But we can't do that while he's in jail.
Well, I mean, there's also a personal fame and fortune thing for Allred and Bloom, as for a lot of people. So there could be many motivating factors for them doing this, but from the legal standpoint, I can't really say. But it totally seems possible they would do that.
No, I'm saying from a business standpoint.
Yeah, sure.
From a business standpoint, and this is why I'm fascinated. I was really excited about doing a show with you because you could tell me about the entertainment side.
Yeah, well,
is it true when a person dies, their catalog goes up in value, correct?
In general, yeah, in general. But, I mean, the catalog, it kind of depends on what you're saying is the catalog. I mean, there would be a boost. Well, first of all, Cosby stuff was taken off the air when this happened, when all this came down. I mean, he was, a version of mainstream deplatforming. I think they even took the Cosby Show off some of the older TV networks. But will it go up? Yeah, I mean... Yeah, but who Yes. I mean, answer, yes. It basically content we already paid for 30 years ago will be valuable again.
And I feel okay with watching, not me, but as just the typical black person, you know what I'm saying? I put that in huge air quotes. I feel okay with watching it again because Bill got off. It's like, put Bill back on TV. He got off. He was railroaded.
Well, you got some. I'm not ready for that conclusion yet. We got some more convincing to do on what went down. No. What I'm saying is just if I'm just paying attention to the media cycle. Oh no, but they didn't do that.
No, the point I'm making is that it could be both ways on both sides. If I am a person that is a Bill Cosby fan and I want to watch the Cosby Show, I feel good about watching it again because he was let off.
Right.
He didn't do it. I mean, in a fan's mind, so they feel okay with watching the show again.
Yeah, but did the fans hear he didn't do it, or did the fans hear he did it, but he got off on the technicality?
It's the same way some people are saying he'll always be guilty.
Yeah.
And he only got off on a technicality. The other side would be that he beat the system.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just telling, and we saw this with the OJ case, that kind of thing. That it's like, okay, he beat the system. That's a win. We can go back to watching him and feel good about watching him. And maybe the powers that be is like, hey, we got a product here. We can get it while he's still living. He's fighting all these cases. He might sell pennies on the dollar. I'm just throwing out as a possible reason why he was let out. Just pure speculation, but it made no sense for him to be let out.
The timing of it was very weird.
Very weird. And as you hear with Gloria Allred, she's talking about the other cases she has pending through civil court.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing she did to lend back to that that predatorial blackmail trope is invoke R. Kelly immediately. Now you got all these other.
It's another one I forgot about. Yeah, right. R. Kelly, sure.
And you notice Bill gets out, R. Kelly trial ramps up.
Yes, that's true.
So I'm just telling you how it's perceived. See, I mean, it's kind of, I can perceive it how some black people, and it's like I said, some men's rights people, and however you want to slice that cake, can look at it and be like, you know what? They railroaded Bill. We're going to take him up as a hero. You know what I'm saying? And that was kind of the thing but when he was released, like.
Now I'll just say that, okay, gotcha. But let's just take R. Kelly as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Only for me, and I think for most, when you say R. Kelly, it's like, oh, there's a black man who did that. It's like, no, there's a creepy entertainer guy who did that. So I understand the perception from if you're talking about yourself, I completely understand the perception. Boy, that's not how I was thinking at all. In fact, of course, I also don't think that way about Bill Cosby. It's like, none of that was racial in my mind until you came along. Mo.
I'm sorry. But
it wasn't racial until you made it that way, okay?
This is why these stories are so great to be used by the media, because it can mean different things to different people, and they take away whatever that, however they're invested in the story.
Right.
Older men might say, hey, that, back in my days, and younger men be like, see, I told you women's rights and feminists, they hate men. It could be taken any way, and then it's amazing that Black Lives Matter didn't come to Bill's defense. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
I'm just telling you that these are why these stories exist. I believe is because they can get you engaged in it emotionally, and when you're engaged emotionally, then it makes it more easy for the spell to be acted on you. So that's just my just my 2 cents.
Yep. Well, when you said America's Dad, then all of a sudden, that part started, and totally from a patriarchy standpoint, gotcha.
All right.
Totally.
So I guess we can go and wrap up with the final Allred clip.
Does this decision affect that case in any way?
It does, actually, because now that he is a free man, now that he cannot be retried, he cannot claim or invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against incrimination and decline to testify. In our civil lawsuit, which alleges that our client, Judy Huth, was victimized, was a victim of child sexual abuse by Mr. Cosby at the Playboy mansion, we have an order compelling him to sit for a second deposition. The first is under seal. In this second deposition, which we intend to take prior to trial, we intend to ask him many, many questions under oath. He is going to be compelled to answer them because he can't invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination.
Hey, Janice, it's Tony DeCopel. It takes a toll on a person to come forward in a case like this. It takes a toll on a person to testify at trial. I'm curious, knowing what you know now about the outcome, would you still go back and take the stand? And what would you say to other women who may be hesitating in different cases right now?
Well, I would go back in a New York minute. And it's because of the support of all the survivor sisters. We're this loving group that will reach out to anyone to help them come forward like many of us did.
The Survivor Sisters?
Survivor Sisters, like 60 of them, they get together and
they have little meetings.
We have meetings and like I said, if they're actually are survivors, maybe it's a coping mechanism for them. But sure. I just find it convenient that Gloria has all these charges, all these civil cases lined up. And she said he cannot use his Fifth Amendment to protect him. He has to testify. And we have an old, aging before our eyes, seems what kind of like frail and feeble. I mean, I don't use those disrespectfully, but it's get him on that stand, allude to whatever he admitted to in the cases, in the previous case. He has to be guilty. He has to be, and you're going to talk about 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. You know what I'm saying? Just like draining him.
Oh, he already paid $3 million, I think, the first. And she got more lined up, as she just said. Hey, the thing you rang the bell. Mm-hmm. Now, this Playboy Club allegation or the Playboy Mansion. Do you know what year this is from?
We'll get into that.
Because I just wanted to say, because I've seen some old Playboy TV shows with Cosby.
We'll get into that too. Go ahead though. Go ahead.
Well, because it's like, it's like Bill was a player, man. He was player. The whole show, like, it was just like super, like, sophisticated but sexy and shit. And I've never been to the Playboy Mansion, but I know plenty of people who have. There's sex going on there. In America's the grotto, whorehouse. Everywhere. I mean, come on.
It's America's whorehouse.
Pretty much.
Let's just call it pretty much. That's exactly what it is, because when you go there, it's like everything's prepaid though.
Yeah, that's not exactly true, because there's you have to buy special Playboy coins, and and so you can pay for stuff with that. I'm reliably informed. Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, you have to convert your money to tokens.
Yeah. Like Bitcoin.
Hello, America's whorehouse. And we're going to get into we're going there. We're going all the way. Okay. If I wasn't going to do this show, if I couldn't go all the way there. Yeah. But the Playboy Mansion full of his white bunnies, the Red Queen. Oh, yeah, we're going all the way there. You know what I'm saying? So
bring it, Mo. Bring it.
Alice in the Wonderland. Mm-hmm. We're going down the rabbit hole, because I went down a serious one with this show. So now we're going to go over to the prosecutor that took Bill Cosby down, and that is one Miss Kristen Gibbons Findon. So she's on MSNBC. So let's go ahead and get into that clip.
It's a lot to take in this morning. Disgraced actor and comedian Bill Cosby.
Wait a minute. I got to say one thing. This is when the case first broke. So we're going back in time.
Oh, right. Bit. Okay. I
got to make that clear. You know what I'm saying? So we're going back to when the case started picking up steam back, I think, in 2015, 2014.
Okay.
No. Excuse me. This is when he was convicted of the case. So this is not the beginning, but this is like the middle when he was actually convicted.
Okay, I'll give us a little sound effect. So we know we're going back in time, Mo.
Yes.
It's a lot to take in. This morning, disgraced actor and comedian Bill Cosby is waking up in jail a day after being sentenced to 3 to 10 years in a Pennsylvania prison, months after he was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constand back in 2004. The 81-year-old led away in handcuffs after a judge ruled he is a sexually violent predator. Kristen Gibbons-Fedden was the prosecutor in the case. She joins me now. Kristen, you were the one who went to Andrea Constand 3 years ago. Has justice been served? Did you think this day would happen when you started working on all of this, especially given what a superstar, an icon Bill Cosby was?
It's interesting that you asked that question. When we decided to charge Bill Cosby, and when I spoke with Andrea and met her and saw how steadfast she was, how brave, how courageous she was, I knew that regardless of the result, justice would be served. Her message would be set forth, her story would be told, and she would be able to confront Bill Cosby as the sexual predator that he was when he sexually assaulted and drugged her that night.
Did the MeToo movement have an impact on this trial?
Well, during the voir dire process, all of the jurors were asked if they could remain fair and impartial and put anything that they may have heard about the Me Too movement to the side. And I do believe that they were able to do that. But in terms of the support and the advocacy that she received, Andrea Constand received in the public's eye, I think it had definitely a significant impact in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Bullshit. Excuse my language. How can any man at that time get a fair trial with the whole Me Too whirlwind swirling? It's not happening. So that was a very disingenuous question. And another thing is, now I'll turn it over to you. Stephanie Rule asked her, saying, she said, you approached the victim. You went to the victim. So it's not like the victim came out of the woodworks and was like, oh, I want justice. Mm-hmm. She had already got her justice with the civil case. Mm-hmm. And how does this Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, who is a black woman allegedly, I'm just saying, appears to be, I don't know if she's ADOS or not, but she appears to be a black woman. How do you not know about his Fifth Amendment rights and how they're being violated? I mean, this is what perplexes a lot of people. And it's not like you're making me defend Bill. I don't want to defend Bill, because if he did what he said accused of, there's no defense of that. But at the same time, it's like, hold on, where you can't violate people's rights to get them. Mm-hmm. Because if justice breaks down, we have no shot at all.
What you're doing here is something very difficult. I mean, you are a black man defending a black man of something he was convicted, narratively convicted of and let off on a technicality.
Which he should never have been on trial in the first place.
And this is part of the defense that people cannot process what you're saying when you say that.
But they have, I'm going to say this, on the flip side of that coin, we've seen certain white men, white society says, hands off, you can't have him. I don't care what he said, what he did, and we saw this with 45 Savage. People didn't care what he did, what he was accused of. It's like, that's our guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter what, I'll just go back to Bill. No matter what Bill did, the net sum total, he's good for our society. And if he did do it, let us handle it.
Okay,
right?
so there's a little extra piece to that from the narrative. And I'm only speaking from the narrative that I've caught and followed, in the past 20 years. And part of that narrative was Bill Cosby is wagging his finger at everybody, telling everybody what to do. Now, this could have also been completely narrative driven. I have some personal experiences where, he definitely is an arrogant guy. And
I'll say it, he's an asshole. Excuse my language. I mean, he definitely was. I have the proof. I mean, you've heard the the Eddie Murphy story when Bill Cosby bitched him out and all this crazy stuff. So we've heard all that. So that's completely tainted, and part of the human nature, certainly when it comes to celebrity, is
celebrities it's like the blue check mark, it's like, hey, we're just waiting for someone to mess up. And, there's a lot of reasons to hate Bill Cosby. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons to love Bill Cosby, but over the years, the past 20 years, I think it really culminated with the pull your pants up, although I agree with it. Mm-hmm. I like that. They pull your pants up, son. Shut up. That was priming. It was primer for what happened, for the response where people go like, friends. I've told, of course that guy did that. Douche. So yeah, and I think it's a human response.
But I'll say this, and as many, and this is a loosely based comparison, but we've seen where guys have been victim of shootings, cop shootings, that have a rap sheet, and Black Lives Matter still does mental gymnastics to make a case for these people to why they need to be held as heroes and be protected. So it's like,
Black Lives Matter was nowhere to be found on this.
That's my point. It's not. No, I'm not looking for white society to protect Bill, but it's black. But you hit on a very important point that he made himself no friends and didn't make it easy for him to be protected.
Right.
But nonetheless, my thing with this case is if we can violate one person's rights, especially of that size, and you have lawyers on both sides. I mean, how can she, with good heart? I mean, I'm sure there's something similar to the Hippocratic Oath.
No, stop. No, there's no such thing.
It has to be.
No, there is no such thing. The only thing I can say is Red Queen have black heart. That's for sure.
I know there's a producer out there. It has to be somewhere that you have to act in good faith.
No,
when dealing with crime. Like, don't you like when you have to recuse yourself and all of that? I mean, isn't that part of it? Like, hey, I know it's wrong. Hey, I know it's my brother-in-law. You know what I'm saying? That's my brother-in-law's business. Hey, I can't participate in this
conflict of interest, but...
Okay, I just want to lay that out. I mean, because I'm going off my Law and Order and Suits legal.
And by the way, my first response with Cosby, two responses. My first response was, well, he got screwed. So, yeah, he deserves to get let off. That's rare that this kind of happens at that level. And my second response is, when is this going to happen next? Derek Chauvin? I mean, who's this going to have this, these technicalities, that's pretty sloppy. And this could happen with all kinds of high profile cases, or you can get railroaded that way too, obviously.
Right. And that's what, when we speak of justice, we're talking about fairness. Not this moral, morally we're going to do the right thing, even though it goes against what law says. No, we can't have that. Even in this case, you can, like I said, two things can be true, but we can't let that kind of law, legal, miscarriage of justice is what I like to say, happen. Because if it can happen to him,
it can happen.
And I have that happen to anybody for anything. So next will be the statute of limitations go away. We've seen NDAs basically become nothing. I mean, it's a total disintegration of the legal system, which hasn't been favorable to people on my side in the first place. But it's like, come on. I mean, like, you can't do Bill like this. And I'll say this once again, at some point, and it's a question, it's not a statement. Can a group stand up and be like, you can't have him? We know about Elvis Presley. We know about, him having a young wife. You're not getting Elvis Presley. I don't care what you say. Certain segments of society is not going to let Elvis Presley be canceled. And there's other ones out there. And even with, I go back to R. Kelly. It's not about the people, it's about the money, because they'll pull all R. Kelly songs off the radio, but they'll let Aaliyah's songs play with R. Kelly in them. How does that make sense? Make sense? It's like, hold on, I thought we were taking R. Kelly. Whoa, no, that'll affect Aaliyah's estate.
Yeah, okay.
So, no, just what I'm doing is painting the picture of why when you talk to somebody, you can see the frustration or the why this would happen. That's all. That's
right.
All I'm doing
so thinking about that, music and music catalog is definitely more valuable, is easy to get value from because people all of a sudden want to listen to songs. Although it's still not what it used to be. With TV shows, it's very, very different. I think the money, if we're going after money in this case, or partially, that's Cosby himself. He has a lot of money, like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, he's super paid. And but the other thing is with the content, when you have
he's probably a billionaire, by the way. He's probably a billionaire.
I believe that. But when you see content focused platforms like Netflix or whatever, fill in the blank, Amazon, his show has to be worth a lot of money because it's something that you can cut on and it'll mindlessly play in the background, which that's all the content platforms care about, right? Like Office. You can cut the Office on. You're not even really watching it, but it's on, right? So, not saying now, but I think just as a business, looking at with a business mind, they could easily say, hey, let's go buy this Cosby thing up for pennies on the dollar and just sit on it. He'll come back around. You know what I'm saying? People will forget now he never done nothing. I mean, you look at this case 20 years from now, it's like, oh yeah, he was convicted, but he got off. And that would be the footnote. So.
Right. Well, just so you know, over the years, the Cosby Show has generated probably close to $5 billion.
I remember he used to come on back to back to back to back every afternoon, like 3 or 4 shows, and you would sit down and watch it. Martin's the same way. It's certain shows in our community, quote unquote community, that it just, you can sit down and watch them over and over again. And it's because I remember where I was at when I saw that. I remember that as a kid, you know, that kind of thing. That's why Elvis would never be canceled, because people are like, hey, I remember when I was in the back seat with Johnny. You know what I'm saying? On the bluff. You know what I'm saying? You can't take that away from my childhood or my teenage years. I mean, excuse me, it's all about that. I mean, I'm not like, we don't care about Bill Cosby. Let's be honest. We don't care about Bill Cosby, the person. We don't care about Elvis, the person. We're invested in them and what their impact on our childhood and memories are. That's the only reason we care about these people.
True.
So, I mean, mini rant, but fascinating timeline. Let's listen to when Bill was convicted.
I say this because I know it's a completely different situation, but here we are with the Supreme Court Justice nominee Brett Kavanaugh. He has accusers, and our own president is repeating these narratives of, I don't know, were people drunk? It was a long time ago. Where were her loving parents? Which is the opposite of what MeToo is trying to do.
Absolutely. I think the MeToo movement is dynamic, and even though there are going to be some people who are going to continue to assassinate the character of these sexual assault victims and
more
survivors.
Than some people, some of the most powerful people in the world.
Absolutely, and that's going to remain. But you know what? Now, these survivors have a community and they have support. And with the conviction of Bill Cosby, they now know that justice can be served, that justice can prevail.
And again, I know they're very different situations, but tomorrow when Brett Kavanaugh's accuser, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, is going to be questioned, they're now bringing in a sex crimes specialist, a woman who has decades of experience. Is due process taking place here, seeing that it is just Christine Ford and it is just Brett Kavanaugh? We're not subpoenaing Mark Judge. There is no FBI investigation. Can she actually do her job here?
You know, due process is the opportunity to be heard. And I admire Dr. Ford, given this constrained process, coming forward under these constraints, being scrutinized in the public eye and also for the Judiciary Committee. Excuse me. Can due process occur under these settings? It's going to remain to be seen.
It's kind of fun to do this after the fact because I'd completely forgotten how that intersected with the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearing timeline.
Yeah, Bill just happens to be convicted right when Kavanaugh's the day before when Blasey Ford is supposed to testify. Which I'll say as a side note, if I've ever seen anybody that could possibly be an MK Ultra victim,
it was Blasey Ford.
This little child voice. I mean, I'm just saying. So
yeah,
he gets taken down when the 2016 election's ramping up. He gets convicted right when Kavanaugh goes on trial, and Kavanaugh's another one. They just brought people out of his past and like, oh, let's just lay it all out there, right? But you see how people rallied around him to protect him. There was none of that for Bill.
You better be bringing Clarence Thomas into this thing pretty soon. Got me some Long John Silver bet on it.
Man, that's another show for another day.
No kidding.
But it's similar in the same cases. When one of the side stories I want to point out is it's amazing how when the boule turn their back on you, no protection. Bill's handed out a lot of those bills you talked about, and nobody came to his defense. Nobody.
Which could also be just because everyone thought he was an incredible dick. It's like, your money's great. Yeah.
Yet and still, it's in certain cultures, you certain people that you can't take. If you gave me a list to say, okay, who's on that list of untouchable in the black community prior to this, it would be like Oprah, Obama, Bill Cosby. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You like, Bill didn't get nobody to come out for him? That was very blaring to me. That was like, wow, this is orchestrated in some kind of way where nobody took up for him. But
so there were some people who took it up for him.
Who?
Was it someone who worked with him?
Most of his we will get to. There's one person that took up for him. We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're hopping over to CNN, and this is Elon Hognig. He's a legal analyst, and he's gonna slam Bill Cosby's prosecutors.
Bill Cosby has not been exonerated. Nobody has said he didn't do it. Nobody has said he is innocent. The people to blame here are the prosecutors, and there's two aspects to that. First of all, Bruce Castor, the district attorney who made this deal back in 2004, 2005, where he essentially said, I don't believe we have enough evidence to prosecute him criminally. That enabled Bill Cosby, forced Bill Cosby to testify in his criminal deposition. That's the deal that Bruce Castor made. Can he be faulted for that? Absolutely. He bears blame for that. And then part two is that future prosecutors came along after Bruce Castor and they said, we're not playing by that deal. We're not observing that deal. And that's what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said is the legal problem here. They said, once Bruce Castor made that deal, we're not going to prosecute you. Like it or not, good deal or bad deal, future prosecutors that came after him were bound by that. And when they went back on that deal and tried him, that's what they say violated Bill Cosby's rights. That's what this decision was about.
And Laura, I mean, as Bryn was just pointing out, Bill Cosby has never admitted guilt. He's always maintained his innocence. However, in the deposition in 2005, when he thought that this was a civil case and he was never going to be prosecuted, he did admit what he did. So all of these accusers, the vast majority say that he drugged them unknowingly and then had sex with them against their will. And in that deposition, the question from Andrea Constand, one of the accusers, from her attorney was, when you got the Quaaludes, was it in your mind that you were going to use these Quaaludes for young women that you wanted to have sex with? Bill Cosby replies, yes.
Okay.
You see the trick they did there?
First of all,
go ahead.
It was a deposition in cases from 2005,
right?
Which was something completely. The way of course I didn't look into it. I was like, oh, they did this maybe 6 months ago. They got a deposition or something. And Quaaludes. I don't know. What did they do there that you thought was?
Because they said, first of all, they said Bill Cosby has not admitted to anything.
Yes.
They said that.
Right. Yes, he hasn't admitted to anything, but there was something about the Quaaludes that
it's a whipsaw, what you call as a whipsaw.
Yeah. They definitely asked a question, but it wasn't.
Right. So then they say, did you give the women Quaaludes and to have sex? Maybe we need to go back and listen.
Yeah, I was going to say,
let's talk about what we heard first, and then we go back and listen to what we actually heard. Basically, she says that he didn't admit to anything, but in the deposition, he did admit to giving women Quaalude that he planned to have sex with. That's not the same thing as drugging people.
Correct.
And then they threw in the middle of that, women said.
All right. Let me hear this again.
Executed. But Castor's successor used Cosby's testimony as a key piece of evidence more than a decade later. Bill Cosby was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting Constant, serving.
I'm sorry, this is the wrong clip. I'm sorry, my mistake. Here we go. This is the one I want. Here, I'm going to pick it up here.
Cosby's rights. That's what this decision was about.
And Laura, I mean, as Bryn was just pointing out, Bill Cosby has never admitted guilt. He's always maintained his innocence. However, in the deposition in 2005, when he thought that this was a civil case and he was never going to be prosecuted, he did admit what he did. So all of these accusers, I mean, the vast majority say that he drugged them unknowingly and then had sex with them against their will. And in that deposition, the question from Andrea Constant.
Pause right there.
Yeah, I hear you.
You see how she sandwiched that in?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay.
Say that he drugged them unknowingly and then had sex with them against their will. And in that deposition, the question from Andrea Constant, one of the accusers, from her attorney was, when you got the Quaaludes, was it in your mind that you were going to use these Quaaludes for young women that you wanted to have sex with? Bill Cosby replies, yes.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
And that's why they kept saying he admitted to what he did. He admitted to the only thing he admitted to. And like I said, I'm not absolving Bill of anything, of any actions. I'm just saying how the media cover this with these tricks. If you have slam dunk testimony, play it. But she did this whole wind up of he didn't admit anything, and in the deposition he was asked, and then women accused him of this, and then she goes back to the deposition and say when he was asked, were you planning to give the Quaalude to women you're going to have sex with? He said yes. So that could mean anything. It was like, hey, that could mean anything.
Here's the actual transcript.
Okay.
You testified that he knew you were not going to take them, and I'd like to explain your answer. How did he know, or why do you say he knew? Answer. What was happening at the time was that was Quaaludes happened to be the drug that young people were using to party with, and there were times when I wanted to have them just in case. Mr. Colby says he never took the Quaaludes. This is now narration. Mr. Colby says he never took the Quaaludes himself because they made him sleepy because he was using them in his efforts to have sex with women. He also says that with the exception of one glass of beer, he stopped drinking alcohol when he was 16. Question, why didn't you ever take the Quaaludes? Answer, because I used them. Q, for what? A, the same as a person would say they have a drink. So it's not even... He says that he was, the way I'm reading it, cursory here, is that, it's like, oh, you want to toke off of this joint, you want a Quaalude, you want a drink, get in the mood. That's kind of the way he was. That's it. Just reading through this quickly, it seems like that's what he admitted to.
Right. And all I'm doing is just opposing that to the way they put the narrative.
Oh, no,
like, under oath, he said, yeah, I crush him up and I put him into the drink.
Now that's Allison. Now that's Allison Camerota, I believe. Allison Camerota.
No, what I'm saying is that they make it seem like that's what he admitted to in his own words, that he was drugging women.
I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But Allison Camerota, who said that on that clip from CNN, she has a story behind her too. Was she not? Yes. She accused Fox of sexual harassment against her before she left for CNN.
That makes it convenient to have a big fish taken down like Cosby when all these other cases are pending. And I don't want to belabor this point too long, but I just want to make one other.
I'm just saying point. She's all on board with.
She's invested.
Yeah, she's invested. That's a good way to put it. Yes, she's invested.
So Eli Honig said that he called out Bill Castor, I think is his name, the prosecutor that made the deal, and then he said the future prosecutors, never naming Miss Kristen Gibbons Fedden that was the one that actually went and sought out the victim. Notice he never name dropped her.
Right.
He just said the future prosecutor. So it's like, hold on, wait a minute. If we're calling out names, let's call out everybody's names. But he didn't do that. So I just found that as an interesting omission. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually listen to Bill Cosby himself speak. And this is when he's fresh out of prison on release.
Judy, Cosby telling ABC's Lindsay Davis on the phone after his release that his conviction did not match the truth. Tonight, his accusers also reacting to the news. He is no longer in prison.
And nobody had the sense to say, wait 1 second, this doesn't match up with the truth. This is not what I was taught in college. This is not what I was taught at home, etc., etc.
Tonight, Bill Cosby talking to ABC News just hours after becoming a free man. His 2018 sex assault conviction overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court after an appeal. Justices ruling he should not have been prosecuted because of a deal with former DA Bruce Castor that he would not be charged if he agreed to testify in a 2005 civil suit brought by accuser Andrea Constand. Today's ruling stated that in accordance with the advice of his attorneys, Cosby relied on Castor's public announcement he would not be prosecuted. But Castor's successor used Cosby's testimony as a key piece of evidence more than a decade later. Bill Cosby was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting Constand, serving 2 of his 3 to 10 year sentence before his release today. Dozens of other women accused Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting them. Today's news leaving many of his accusers stunned and angry. Today, Cosby's longtime co-star Felicia Rashad tweeted support saying, quote, a miscarriage of justice is corrected. She followed that up with another tweet saying she supports survivors of sexual assault and did not intend to be insensitive to, quote, their truth, Judy.
Oh, you know what happened there.
Felicia got the Boule phone.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, girl. Let's talk about that.
Felicia, you got to fix that, baby. You're just like, and that's how it works. You can release one tweet, and then it's like that phone rings, and that's just it's like, hey, Felicia, this is the Boule Inc. calling, and we like to say that what your statement is doesn't jibe well with what we're trying to do over here. So we need you to go on social media and correct that ASAP.
Get on board with the program here, Felicia.
Right, and on cue. On cue, she corrects her statement, and this is not the first time.
Felicia Rashad, Bill Cosby's TV wife, finally speaking out.
This as more women continue to come forward and protesters are threatening to disrupt 3 comedy concerts in Canada starting tonight. Now there's Mrs. Huxtable going on the record.
Yeah, tonight's top story, more Cosby crash and burn. Will his TV wife stand by her man?
You were on the set with him for more than a decade, working very closely with him. At no time did you ever see anything inappropriate?
What I saw was fun, never anything inappropriate. What I saw was work and play at work and fun. Mrs. Cosby was a frequent visitor to the studio. She was there a lot. That's what I saw.
Felicia Rashad, Bill Cosby's TV wife for more than 8 years, is finally speaking out. She tells ABC News correspondent Lindsay Davis she learned about the claims against Cosby along with the rest of the world.
I can't even speak to those things and don't want to.
The sit-down airing on ABC News came just hours after Rashad was quoted on the website Showbiz 411, where it sounded like she was implying there was some sort of plot against Cosby. Here's the purported quote. Forget these women. What you're seeing is the destruction of a legacy, and I think it's orchestrated. I don't know why or who's doing it, but it's the legacy.
That was a misquote. And that is not what I said. What I said is this is not about the women. This is about something else. This is about the obliteration of legacy.
Oh, well, that's true.
Phone is real.
It's right, man. That thing is off the hook now. It's like, girl.
It's real. And that's why you don't have, just to pat ourselves on the back, a show like this on the mainstream, because my Boule phone would have been rung by like clip 4. It's like, hey, and the way it works is like, it's not like a huge power structure. It's just that somebody knows somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
And they'll have your friend call you like, hey, not looking too good, you might want to go out and get ahead of it. That's what they use. They use those terms. You might want to get ahead of this.
Get ahead of this issue. Yeah.
Right.
Let's get out in front of this. Yeah.
Because Claire Huxtable, and I used her TV name for a reason, legacy is at stake.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that she is
legacy
to the masses is Claire Huxtable.
Mm-hmm.
No Cosby Show, no Claire Huxtable.
Right.
Who is she? But at the same time, she also has loyalty to the sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
And she knows how it goes down in Hollywood. I mean, she knows. And she's like, this is mass conspiracy. Now, like I said, you can be guilty of something, but the powers that be, they're saying, cover it up for you. And I think that's how this whole thing works in general. If you know how Skull and Bone works, they want to know all your dark secrets. You lay in the casket, you tell all your dark secrets. And Bill's laying in the casket, he's like, oh, yes, I like to put Quaaludes in women's drinks. That's my thing. And they're like, great, Bill. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, awesome. But they take those secrets and use them and weaponize them when they see fit. And it's like, well, we need a big name for Me Too. Who we got up? It's like, yeah, Bill. And I know we're speaking about this in gallows humor, but we have to, because it's a very heinous set of crimes that allegedly happened. But at the same time, this takedown is one of the most fascinating takedowns I've seen in my life.
Yeah, it really is. And it's nothing compared to you got the Cuomo takedown, the most recent one. It puts all this stuff in interesting perspective.
But where's the handcuffs, though?
Yeah, right. Oh, no, he got to slip out the back door.
I mean, tens of thousands of dead people.
And he wasn't 15,000. He wasn't elected official doing this to people in his office. I mean, allegedly.
Now can you understand the frustration with so-called black people in the justice system? This is what causes the frustration, because it's like, hold on, who was Bill's lawyers, first of all? And it's, what? How did this even make it to trial? You have a public statement by the person that made the deal with him saying, oh, we can't use that testimony. Public. It wasn't like in hidden secret closed indictments. What's the sealed indictments?
Well, so there's something else. So on a bigger scale, in my mind, yes, America has a two-tier justice system, and we've seen it a lot. You see it with people like Roger Stone. You see it with, I've had my own version of it with taxation issues, where if you have enough juice with the justice system, you can take the IRS to court and you can win certain things. General Michael Flynn. I mean, this is well documented how he got railroaded by the justice system. So this does happen to people who the powerful want to have taken care of. Now, does this mean that it's the Illuminati and the Boule doing this black and white? Possibly. It may be a little more across the board. I understand where you're coming from, but there's also a currently, and this follows along of you saying, "Hey, we're first." Yeah, well, we're following close behind, because there's a certain type of white man. Notice, by the way, toxic masculinity only really is for white men whenever it's used. And there's different types of justice. Of course, we haven't seen someone on the level of Cosby, but definitely it's an anti-man thing for sure. I hear you on the black thing, but it's
because it's you've seen Godfather, right?
I just think it's bigger than that. I think you have me with the America's Dad.
Right. It's no. What I'm saying is the Boule was complicit. No, the Boule doesn't have the kind of power to take down a Cosby. Let's just be clear on that as well. They were complicit, and I was going to make an analogy to The Godfather, right? When Michael's older brother got whacked, right? He got hit at the toll booth.
Right.
The toll the toll guy had to be in on it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the one that pulled the trigger, but he had to know to get down. They about to start shooting.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So he had some knowledge of the takedown was going to happen. That's what I'm saying. That's the Boulet's role in it, that they turned their back on Bill and crossed their arms and said, we're not touching this.
Right.
You're on your own. And that's what the point I'm making. No,
Okay.
the Boulay doesn't have the kind of power to take down a Bill Cosby. And it's not even what I'm saying is, if you're a willing participant in this narrative of like getting emotionally invested in it, this is how, when you walk away from it, like, see, this is what I'm talking about. You know, black man can't get a fair trial in America. This is what foments this kind of behavior. This kind of it's like, bro, what you got to do? I mean, the Fifth Amendment, everybody knows Fifth. If you watch David Chappelle, I'm pleading the Fifth. You know what I'm saying? Tron, come on. Everybody knows that, but yeah, so I just say that all that to say, now we need to get into the timeline of the Bill Cosby allegation.
For Bill Cosby, it has been a week of allegations from women who say they were sexually assaulted in the past by the comedian. Many claim they were drugged.
I never saw any drugs, but I would wake up completely confused, half-dressed, and knowing that my body had been touched without my permission.
Bowman says she went to Cosby's New York apartment alone and that Cosby flew her all around the country as he performed at various venues. But she says the advances were unwelcome. Also speaking out, Joan Tarshis.
We went up to his bungalow afterwards. He made me a drink, and very shortly after that, I passed out. I woke up or came to very groggily with him removing my underwear.
Tarshis says that in 1969, she voluntarily saw Cosby again when he invited her to a performance. After accepting drinks at his hotel and in a limo, she says she woke up the next morning with him in his bed. Ironically, Cosby released a comedy album that same year titled It's True, It's True, joking about that very issue.
You know what? You know anything about Spanish fly? No, tell me about it. Well, there's this girl, Crazy Mary. You put some in her drink, man.
It's like Louis C.K. Wow.
Yeah. And the thing about this clip was to show that these women saw him again and again afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. Like I said, I'm not making the case for Bill Cosby. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm illustrating is how you had such a divide on this case. And when we have these divides, it's by design, I believe. That's my personal opinion, that let's take a case that can shatter society, you know what I'm saying, and have them on looking at the same thing, but looking at it from two different angles.
Well, like OJ,
like, hold on,
etc.
Same thing, exactly, because OJ set back racial relations.
And Michael Jackson.
Same thing. And then you got Bill Cosby here, America's dad, clean cut, waves his finger, everybody, oh, you need to do this, pull up your pants, like you said, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's like, hold on, in the 1970s, he just out here randomly, you know what I'm saying, assaulting women, a black man in the 1970s, and you can't get him. No, I mean, that just doesn't register like as being, like 1970s. I mean, men were still getting lynched in the 1980s. Let's just keep it funky with you.
Right.
And in 1970s, you have a man running around Hollywood.
Did you just say, let's keep it funky with you? Is that what you just said to me, Mo?
Yeah.
Thanks. I just want to make sure I'm funky.
Sorry. No, but I'm just saying, it's just that these things, when they hit your brain in little morsels, the fact that we're deep diving in now and going through this timeline and, you know, the narrative, it's one way. But when these little morsels hit your brain, like, it's like, hold on, what? The women saw him again? Yeah. Hollywood drugging people?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ain't that how Hollywood get down? I mean, like that kind of thing. So, but I'll say Bill did himself no favors once again by making the Spanish Fly. Now, this is a little long,
yes,
but it's important we listen to it.
When I was 13, man, start talking about weird things. No, really. Stand on the corner. You know anything about Spanish fly? What? Spanish fly? It always happens when you're 13. Only when you're 13 on up to like when you get married. Guys stand around and talk about Spanish fly, and it never starts with one of the guys on the corner. It's always some strange 13-year-old that says, you know what? You know anything about Spanish fly? No, tell me about it. Well, there's this girl, Crazy Mary. You put some in her drink, man. She... Yeah, Spanish, oh yeah, that's really groovy, man. Spanish fly is groovy, yeah, boy. From then on, man, anytime you see a girl, well, yeah, no Spanish fly, boy. Go to a party, see 5 girls standing alone. Boy, if I had a whole jug of Spanish fly like that up over there. So I thought it only existed in Philadelphia, you know, and I'm working on I Spy, and Bob and I are working together. Sheldon Leonard comes up, says, boys, I Spy is going to Spain. A childhood dream come true.
Chip, I'm sorry to interrupt this, but he almost has the cadence of George Carlin in this clip.
Yeah.
It's so different from his, I'm not tired. It's very different. I like it.
I said to Bob, you know, because he don't know nothing about it. I said, hey, Bob, you know what I'm going to pick up when I'm in Spain? He said, Spanish fly. I said, wait a minute, man. How'd you know about it? He said, are you kidding? There's a girl in my neighborhood in Berkeley named Crazy Mary. We gave her some stuff. And every time he told me a story, I had heard it. Every time I told him a story, he had heard it. We all knew the same story. So I figured there's got to be a guy about 2,000 years old that looks 13 going around the world. You guys know anything about Spanish fly? So Bob and I, man, we're just singing. Going to get some Spanish fly, Spanish fly, love it, love it. And we're riding on the plane, Spanish fly, Spanish fly. And we get in and go through cussing. This is the land of Spanish fly. Spanish fly. We get in the cab, and Ryan and the driver. Bob said, ask this guy if he knows where we can get some Spanish fly. I said, you don't ask the cab driver. No, ask the cab driver. He may know, man. Driver, say, senor. Listen, you Spanish? Si, senor, you American? Yes. You come from America? Yes. You could tell me maybe you brought with you some American flies?
So, that's a great, and he also, you can hear Eddie Murphy took, Eddie Murphy was influenced by that. It's very interesting to hear this. Good clip, and a very different kind of joke, of course, than the way it was worked into that clip before.
But, and then make the jump from Spanish fly to Quaaludes. That's the other thing. It's like, and they took these little morsels.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, he made that comedy show about drugging women, right? Clearly.
Yeah,
we have his
let's cut
confession.
that up a little bit. Yeah.
Right. We have his confession. We have his tape about Spanish fly. Clearly, this is open and shut case. So this is how Bill Cosby was railroaded.
Great media deconstruction in general, Mo. Great media deconstruction.
I appreciate that. Now we got to get to the Quaaludes and how popular they was in the 1970s.
Who could forget this scene from The Wolf of Wall Street? Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill high on Quaaludes, unable to walk or speak. It's pretty funny, but Quaaludes are no joke. The drug is now getting lots of attention after Bill Cosby admitted giving them to women. Nicknamed Disco Biscuits, Quaaludes were hugely popular in the 70s, widely consumed in nightclubs like the legendary Studio 54. Originally developed as a sleeping pill, Quaaludes had a deeply relaxing effect, much like strong alcohol.
It's not the typical high you'd get if you were taking like ecstasy where you're partying or you're doing coke and you're really up. It's more of a relaxed kind of high.
But Quaaludes were often abused. In 1977, director Roman Polanski gave then 13-year-old Samantha Geimer a portion of a Quaalude before he had sex with her. He fled the country to avoid prison, never to return.
It's not uncommon to see things like seizures, coma, and death, and that absolutely happened, which is why the drug, although it wasn't on the market for very long, became a huge problem, and it became very quickly taken off the market. By the 80s, it was gone.
Bill Cosby was prescribed Quaaludes for a bad back. He says he never took them, but kept them on hand to offer dates.
This is great. I never heard all the. I was so busy looking at 45 Savage and all the stuff at the time. I'm sorry that I didn't really follow this.
That's why it's a great topic to cover, because we all were just sucked into the media narrative.
No, took time. No, Mo, I was like, just a black guy who gives a shit. Typical. That's all I thought.
No, what it is that we saw that, like, okay, who's going to be the next one? And that was kind of the narrative,
True. Yeah.
Bill, okay, who's next? Okay,
right.
Weinstein, who's up next?
Yeah.
Whatever his name
Les
is.
Moonves.
Yeah, Les Moonves. Who's next? That kind of thing. But yet and still, when they talk about Roman Polanski, he gives one to a 13-year-old girl before they have sex, not the rape word.
Right. And yeah. And that was actually very, very, very soft on Polanski, the way the media usually is about him.
Well, is it? I mean, that's another thing. Like, let's have a small discussion about Roman Polanski. Who did he piss off? I mean, because it seems like now Hollywood loves him because he actually won an Oscar or something. They gave Meryl Streep gave him a standing ovation, and we'll hear saying stuff about that, but. To be on the run that long as a white guy, this totally breaks the narrative, because we have this white guy on the run for his life over giving, a 13-year-old Quaaludes, and we have Bill Cosby, a black guy, just dropping Quaaludes like dimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, well, hold on, what? How does that happen in the racial America? I mean, this is why it's like such a mind screw.
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen? I don't know. I don't know how that happens. But like I said, Disco Biscuits, that's a crazy name.
I hadn't heard of Disco Biscuits, but I like it. I like it a lot. That's good.
Not like Butter Biscuits, folks. Not like Butter Biscuits.
No, it's a whole different kind of biscuit.
It's a whole different kind of biscuit. So let's see. Now we have Roman Polanski's victim, and she wants the case dropped.
She was sexually assaulted by director Roman Polanski as a teenager. Now she wants a Los Angeles judge to drop the case. Danielle Nottingham has the story.
I'm just here to try and get things resolved, and not on Roman's behalf, but on the behalf of a fair justice system.
Samantha Geimer delivered a passionate plea to end a case that's kept her in the headlines for the past 40 years. She says the trauma of media scrutiny has been more painful than the crime.
I do not want to have to explain to my granddaughter why she can't go outside or answer the phone, or why there are camera crews outside my home, and eventually what happened to her Nana in 1977.
Geimer was 13 when director Roman Polanski, then 43 years old, gave her champagne and a pill during a photo shoot in the Hollywood Hills and sexually assaulted her. The Oscar winner pleaded guilty to unlawful intercourse with a minor in 1977. He was sent to a state prison for a 90-day evaluation, but was released after 42 days. Polanski fled the country to avoid additional time in 1978. He was notably absent from accepting a Best Director Academy Award for The Pianist in 2003. Friday's hearing was part of an effort by Polanski's lawyer, Harland Braun, to dismiss the case and get an international warrant lifted that would allow Polanski to travel more freely outside of the U.S. Outside of the courtroom, Geimer said she never felt the case was about her.
I'm standing here saying I'm fine and nothing you can do to him will help me or anybody else. Suddenly it's the states, not me, that count. It's a really hypocritical view. Either victims count or they don't.
Yeah, well, I've always thought that the Roman Polanski issue was not about this so-called rape or underage rape at all. but about his investigation of the Tate murder.
Are you talking about the Manson?
The Mansons, yeah.
Yes,
because he was all over that, and it was all, it's all kinds of weird stuff. He was training with Bruce Lee, and then I guess he thought, Bruce Lee might have killed him, and it was just all kinds of weird. I don't know. I always thought that he had uncovered something there that might. And that was my question:
like, who did he piss off?
Yeah, well, when you said that, that's what triggered it with me. I kind of remember looking into that.
In the time where it was just like, 13-year-old Quaaludes. That's like, a Saturday night, in Hollywood. I say that flippantly, but that's kind of like how MeToo paints the narrative. Like that was the good old boys club, just how they roll. But all of a sudden now Polanski is on the run for his life, yet and still. So I just found that weird. Just as a juxtaposition with Bill Cosby, I didn't want to go.
There's one other part to it. This is the way it's been told to me. No judgment. I'm just saying, here's what the story is. If we presume that a lot of powerful Jews have control over things in Hollywood, Roman Polanski being Polish, and he may have actually made some comments about this, or may have been some screenplay. The Hollywood Jews have a big problem with Poland, because they feel it was Poland that really built the concentration camps for the Nazis.
They even made a Netflix documentary kind of rewriting history, or however you want to say it, reshaping the narrative around Poland. So that makes plenty of sense now. I didn't know that. That's why I love talking to you, because I didn't know that part of. Yeah,
he may have said something. Actually, I'm reading from Wikipedia now. His Polish Jewish parents moved the family back from Paris to Krakow in 1937. Then Poland was invaded. Let me see. After his mother and father were taken in raids, Polanski spent his formative years in foster homes under an adopted identity, surviving the Holocaust. Oh, so that's also probably might be something contentious. Like, you hid your true identity so you didn't have to go to the work camp.
He was passing.
Yes. Stuff like that. So I don't know I don't know exactly, but I think all of this comes into play somehow.
Okay. So I brought up Roman Polanski to show you an example of how you thought or would think Bill would have been protected. And this is Whoopi Goldberg explaining the Roman Polanski case on The View.
Was not charged. I know it wasn't rape.
Yeah, there was a statutory child molest. Maybe I'm not sure.
It was something. It was something else, but I don't believe it was rape. And when we get all the information, somebody will tell me in my ear. All I'm trying to get you to understand is when we're talking about what someone did and what they were charged with, we have to say what it actually was, not what we think it was.
What he said he did. He gave her Quaaludes. He gave her champagne. She was drugged. She was 13 years old. He asked her. Here's a transcript. But that's what I'm saying. You're 13 years old. She was still a child.
Initially he was charged with rape. Go ahead. And then he pled guilty to having sex with a minor. Okay? And he went to jail, and when they let him out...
45 days.
And when they let him out, he said, you know what? This guy's going to give me 100 years in jail. I'm not staying. And that's why he left. So that's why I wanted to be really clear, because I wanted to know exactly what we were talking about.
And I'm going, does that make it okay to instead of staying and fighting, to say, he's going to give me 100 years, I'm out of here?
I don't know if it's okay, but what we were talking about was what he did. And that's what I wanted to clear up. That's all I wanted to clear up, because I don't like it when we're passionate about something and we don't have all the facts.
Okay, so he was charged with statutory rape. So should he be prosecuted now? I believe yes, because the crime has not changed. I know she wants to move on, but what does it say about crimes that are still being committed against children?
Well, I love how she's sticking up for the Polish guy.
Rape.
What the hell is rape? Is that something that
rape? It's not. It's not the stocking cap of your face, climb through the window kind of rape. It's that acceptable kind. Like, that's totally disgusting. Like, why don't people like that get canceled? Could you imagine getting on TV and defending R. Kelly by saying, what R. Kelly did wasn't really rape? Imagine if a black man would have got on television and said that. They would have been out. the Boulay phone would ring mid-episode. I like, hey, get him out of here ASAP. Rape. I'm glad you caught on to that. Like, she said it twice.
Oh, of course.
Huh?
Of course.
You think that's crazy? Wait till you get to the second clip.
Well, she forgives him, but forgiveness is not permission, and forgiveness doesn't mean he didn't break the law. So I agree with you, Sherry.
And if this is a point somebody brought up backstage, if he was not famous, would we be protecting him as much as we are? Because his friend Otto Weisinger said, millions and millions of people love his work. He's a brilliant guy, and he made a little mistake 32 years ago. What a shame for Switzerland, said Otto Weiss, Polanski's friend.
Well, I have to tell you again, we're a different kind of society. We see things differently. The world sees 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds and the rest of Europe. They're seen oftentimes.
I wonder what Otto would say if that was his 13-year-old daughter.
Well, Sherry, I don't know, but I do know that not everybody agrees with the way that we see things. Now, would I want my 14-year-old having sex with somebody? Not necessarily, no. But I will tell you that I'm not surprised that he hasn't come back. I'm not surprised that he didn't come back under the guise that he would have 31 years ago. Will he get a different kind of feel now? Maybe.
That's pretty incredible. How old is that? So that can only be like, I guess, is that back from that time, from the Cosby?
Yeah, this was right around, let's see, maybe 2014, 2015, because I think that's when the clip that she wanted the case drop. I think that's when, this was right after that happening. But a different kind of society? I'm like, what? I don't know what kind of society she lives in.
Well, seeing as her real name is Karen Johnson.
Oh, okay. Explains it all.
She lives in a fantasy world regardless. She's
completely... Who has... I want to know who's pulling Whoopi's strings. For her to go out on a limb like that in the climate...
ABC. Whoopi is a company woman. So she's Disney. She's whatever Disney wants her to say, she says. That's the way I've always felt.
Sleeping with 13-year-olds now. That's all you had to say. Thank you.
Okay. Just trying to clear it up for you. Yeah, it's Disney. Yeah. It's a Disney outfit. Yeah.
And this is why this show is important, because you will not have this conversation anywhere else, because, as you say, she's a company woman.
Yeah.
And most people that are company people can't have discussions like this, but we can on the Moe Factz with Adam Curry show.
First, the white man and the black man have to be able to sit down at the same table. The white man has to feel free to speak his mind without hurting the feelings of that Negro. And the so-called Negro has to feel free to speak his mind without hurting the feelings of the white man. Then they can bring the issues that are under the rug out on top of the table and take an intelligent approach to get the problem solved. That's the only way that they'll ever do it.
And that's exactly what we're doing here. And we've been doing it, this is our 65th episode and many, many more to come. Value for value. There's a couple ways you can support the show. And what it means is literally that. You're getting value by listening to the show. If not, you should stop listening. If you do, what is that value? Turn it into a number, something meaningful to you, and send it to us. You can go to mofactz.com and make a donation through our PayPal. You should be able to get there directly through mofundme.com. And also, you can use any Podcasting 2.0 app that lets you stream value for value payments. A lot of people are already doing this, and pretty soon we'll be integrating some of the boostograms. As we get it's cutting edge stuff, of course. But we do love it when people send some boosts, and we'll be getting those boostograms into these donations pretty soon as well. For one of the new podcast apps, go to newpodcastapps.com. Now let's take a look at our producers, our executive producers for episode number 65. Now this is a couple of, more than a couple of weeks that's stacked up. So some of it may be a little bit on the crusty side when it comes to the content of the notes, but we really appreciate the support, and we kick it right off with Philip Brown, $165.
Baller, shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
Big baller, there you go. $100 value for value, he says, and 65 for 65. And then he adds a 73, of course, ham radio operator, Kilo 15, November Tango Yankee. Thank you so much, Philip. We really, really appreciate the support. And then Chris Bailey, and again, these are show donations, comes in with the same basic concept.
Baller, shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
So Chris hits us up with two separate donations. The first one, 100. And he says, with that so much value from the last show, I decided I needed to make this donation my first executive producer credit. But I can't let the show number club streak die. Be on the lookout for that in the second donation. And he also wants a goat woosah. And indeed, his second donation, $65. And he made good on it for the big baller for this episode. And let me see, he's got a goat woosah.
Woosah.
Woosah. Woosah. Woosah.
Then we got Brian Lewis. Now this is make good. This is make good from what, Mo?
This was we missed him from the last show.
Oh, okay.
We missed his note. He was at the bottom, so we missed him. But on Make Goods, we move you right to the top,
That's
behind the big ballers.
And you got $2.12, and you're right under the big ballers with the Make Good. This doesn't mean that, we're always going to be forgetting people for this to happen. Here's his note. Can't wait to donate some more, Mo and Adam. All I can say is, wow. I donated last episode, saw my name in the show notes, but was not mentioned. Yep, we screwed it up. All that matters is that you got the money. No, it matters. It works both ways. Keep it up, fellas. Can't wait to hear Mo and Adam crush the 100th episode, bring us all together. United we stand. And thank you very much, Brian. Sorry we missed that note, man. Glad we got it now. $150 from David Boswell. Big Fezzik here. What you two are doing is meaningful. It's changing me deeply with every episode. I'm so thankful that you are both are sharing this work. Oh, it changes my life, too. I think Mo would probably say the same.
Yep.
$100 from William Bullock, another executive producer of episode 65. Value for value in his notes. Brock Reinholtz says, thanks for the show. Woohoo with a hundy for us. Appreciate that, Brock. Kyle Mann. Is it Kyle or Kylie?
I think it's
probably Kyle. $88. Great show, Kyle says. Caught one of the early episodes, forgot about the show, then heard a recent episode while listening to the No Agenda stream on a late night in the office. The episode was fascinating, and I've listened through about 8 of the archived episodes so far. Can see things have really been coming together. Mo, the preparation you put into the shows comes through, and there's good chemistry between the two of you. I feel that your analysis has given me a better understanding for parts of America that I've never had a deep understanding of, though being adjacent to much of my life, living in cities in Ohio and also for a while near your old home of Durham. Many mainstream narratives are either from a left-wing perspective that berates the common man or from a colorblind right-wing perspective that's lacking in depth. Yeah, that's a fair point. Your perspective is rich in nuance and humanization, and I've found the show novel and informative. Yes, it's a novel show. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that.
That's a blurb for the show.
That is a good blurb right there. Yeah, we're in associate executive producer territory here, by the way, with August Alexander Van Poppel. Hi, Adam and Mo. Here's a little token of appreciation for your wonderful podcast. It's always worth the wait, so please keep up the good work. And we do appreciate everybody for hanging in there, for sure. Mike McCoy with a show number donation, $65. I consider this podcast one of the most important classes I've ever taken, he writes. The depth of knowledge you brought to my worldview is something I can never truly thank you both enough for. To all the producers out there, is really worth the listen from the beginning. Yeah, from episode 1. A lot of people doing that. Hoping for a Mo Karma for all. Love isn't lit. P.S. There was a producer from last show looking for someone to do a podcast with. I would be interested if you could hook us up at his discretion, of course. Contact to follow torpex11@gmail.com. TORPEX11. That's 11 at gmail.com. And of course, we
need to create a site like Podcast Mingle. So podcasters, partners can find each other.
Another business idea is born, Mo. You got to stop doing this to me. More business.
Mo Comer.
We're looking at Sir D.H. Slammer, who came in with the show donation, I'm sure, for the last show. We'll pop him in for today. He had 64. And he writes, rich in knowledge, but currently cash poor. Still still funding the important things in life with a show club donation. Thank you for your courage. Can I get a belated biscuit for my birthday? Thank you very much, Sir D.H. Slammer.
They always give me a biscuit on my birthday.
That's right. No disco biscuits for you.
Yeah, keep that. Yeah, move that bag over to the other side of the desk.
All right, we have a couple more associate executive producers. $50 from Harold Kammermeyer, who says, I like the discussion. Keep up the good work. Cohen Prowl. Don't need to keep it on a schedule, but keep bringing those Moe Factz. And actually, Mo and I have had some chats, and we really do want to get this on a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think we're on a schedule now. Every other Wednesday. Then he says, love you. Love y'all. Yeah, that includes you, Curry, even though we all know Mo is the star of the show. LOL. Hello. I'm just riding the coattails.
The clips of the star.
No, the clips are not the star.
I'm messing with you. But no, I'll say this about the schedule and everything else. The value is even more important now with getting mandate proof. If people are wondering where we're at, like sometimes real life kind of gets in the way because we see what climate we're in. So this value really may be dependent upon at some point if things go left.
Yes. Well, yes.
I just want to put that out here. You know what I'm saying? Because we're all.
Let's put it this way: we've been saving our money for a rainy day that could be coming, and the support it will be needed more than ever. Okay, where are we now? We're at Cohen.
Make sure you don't miss anybody.
I'm sorry.
Make sure we don't miss anybody.
Anybody
up to the top of the list.
Don't want to do that. We got Cohen. Now we got William Taylor, $50. Thank you for the meat. Each episode, an extraordinary podcast. Can I get a Mo Karma, please? And that's from Hig Hawker.
You've got
Mo Karma.
And we'll be thanking more people in a minute after our final associate executive producer.
I think you got one more.
Yeah, our final executive producer is...
sorry about that. I didn't know if you had missed them or not.
No, I got it. I was trying to do something different, Mo.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm a little gun shy, man. We missed somebody. I'll take that. And I'll take that.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
That people's value, man. It's their value.
But now I got to pronounce this name.
I'm sorry.
Oluyemi Fawahinmi.
That was worth it. That was worth it.
You know, this is probably one of those bend over names that I'm not catching yet. Oluyemi Fawahinmi. Wow.
I think you got it. I think
Oluyemi, I want to know. I don't want to know about your name. I'm very curious about that. $50 and associate executive producer for you, and says thanks for the podcast with Adam Curry. Learning a lot. And you bet. So we're going to leave it at that for now. We'll come back in a little bit to do the rest of our list, all the way down to the bottom. Hopefully don't miss anybody. But for this list of our executive producers and associate executive producers, our show donation producers, our big ballers, thank you for supporting Moe Factz with Adam Curry, episode number 65. Your value is appreciated. We continue to bring it for you, and we love hearing what you have to say about it. Support us with a new podcast app, newpodcastapps.com. Boost whenever you feel like it. Send us a Boostagram. And, of course, go to mofactz.com or directly to the donation page, mofundme.com. Thanks again for supporting the show.
All right, so one more thing I would like to add. When you go to mofundme.com, you will find now that there is a P.O. box there for the people that want to send in
checks, gold doubloons, money orders.
Right. So just to let people know that. So speaking of checks, we have to go and see who pulled the trigger on Bill to get this whole thing rolling and what was their compensation. So now we have to get into Hannibal Buress and his stand-up joke.
Back in 2006, actor Bill Cosby dealt with a civil lawsuit alleging that he sexually assaulted a woman. Now, there were 13 other women that came forward as part of that case, and before any of them could testify, Cosby decided to actually settle the suit with the woman who filed the suit against him. Her name is Andrea Constant. Now, originally she wanted to file a criminal lawsuit. However, prosecutors said that there wasn't enough evidence to do so. So now, as a result, fast forward to today, a comedian decided to make some interesting commentary on this entire sexual assault case. And of course, it's making headlines. I want you guys to take a look at the video and then we'll discuss.
Bill Cosby has the fucking smuggest old black man public persona that I hate. This So, take you saying lots of motherfuckers on Bill Cosby himself if you weren't a rapist. For the most part, it's fucking public Teflon image. I've done this bit on stage, and people don't believe. People think I'm making it up. I'm like, Bill Cosby, there's a lot of rape allegations. No, you do. That shit is upsetting. If you didn't know about it, trust me. If you leave here, Google Bill Cosby rape. It's not funny. That shit has more results than Hannibal Buress.
Yeah, man, I forgot about that. It was
Hannibal Buress?
It was his joke, yeah.
He lit the fuse.
Yeah.
Or did he? Was he just doing a stand-up act and people took this and say, you know what, we could take this and run with it. And we can say, you know what, it was a black man that you were saying that initiated this whole circus into action to take down another black man.
Oh.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, before this, I had never heard of Hannibal.
No, of course.
Never heard of Hannibal Buress. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I never seen him on Comedy Central or Def Jam.
I'd never heard of him since, to be honest.
Well, we're going to get to that and why. We're going to get to why you haven't heard of him since. But another thing is, we talked about the America's Dad and the take down the patriarchy, but also now our understanding of respectability politics and how that's like the third rail Bill had to go. Because we talked about respectability politics on the last one. That's to pull up your pants, cut your hair.
Right.
Use correct English. All the things Bill was saying. He was a respectability
he was trying to shape up the black man. That we can't have that. We gotta use those for our own agenda.
That is correct. So now we have you don't know if you heard this guy named Joe Rogan, but Hannibal Buress.
I've heard of his show.
Okay. Hannibal Buress sat down with him and talked about the aftermath of Bill Cosby.
Have you completely moved past all the Cosby shit, or do you still take grief for that?
Not grief. No, I've
Well, now you're vindicated.
I was instead of grief, it was just where I would be forced to talk about it in situations I didn't want to, and also it came out the joke. And that video came out right before we were starting the rollout for my Comedy Central TV show. And we actually, we pushed back my announcement because
that look opportunistic.
That news was that crazy that we pushed it back by the premiere announced by a month or two.
Wow.
Because it was that. And so even though I had my Comedy Central deal in place, since like 2012, I had an all-around Comedy Central deal. And so then when that came out, and then I got my show with it, then my show was scheduled to go on the air. It looked like, oh, he did a Cosby joke, and then he got a TV show. It's like, no, man, this is like my 4th development deal, and this is finally the show that I got on.
Isn't it funny how things like that work?
Isn't it funny how that works? Like you do the Cosby joke and then you get the show?
Well,
who wrote the joke?
He said he was in the 4th development deal. So I got this is what the person that wrote in talk about nuance and humanizing. We're not going to jump on Hannibal Buress and say that he was sat down in a smoky room like, hey, Hannibal, you're going to write this joke. You know what I'm saying? You're going to say Bill Cosby the racist. You know, and it's going to be it's going to be great. And your show is going to be catapulted off of it. No, that's not how it works. They knew of this joke, I think. They gave it gas. The Young Turks. I saw it in the Fox News.
No,
not Fox News. That Fox News.
Hold on a second. Let me correct you the way I believe it to work.
Okay, please.
He did the joke. The joke made the special work for them. For whatever reason, they didn't tell him to write the joke, but it was the fourth development deal. Finally, they said, "Oh, now you got something we can use, son."
Yeah. Not, like I said, I'm thinking that it happened. He told the joke under the development deal. He picked up press. You know, whoever MeToo, whoever wants to give it gas. Young Turks, Fox 5. I heard on Fox. I'm like, who is Hannibal? Who the hell is Hannibal Buress? That was my question. Like, who is this guy? And then they called him in like, hey, we got the, you know that show you wanted? I think it'd be a great time for it. When you go out, you're going to be asked about it. And then it's like, you know how the press does. It's like, oh, we hate to ask you this, but why we have you here? Bill Cosby, is he a rapist? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? It's like, I came here to talk about my show that's about to go off. So like I said, I don't want to.
Shoot, man. Do you know that this guy, he is the voice of Fly Low FM on Grand Theft Auto?
I never played that game, so I never. Yeah,
what's wrong with you, man? What you don't like killing hookers? Come on.
I'm a sports guy. I play basketball, football, and then Mario. I play anything with Mario in it. Just a little insight,
I got you.
But yeah, I think that's how it goes. Is that while you're on your press run, you're going to be asked about Bill.
Yeah,
and he even said it. He said, "I felt forced to talk about it."
Yeah.
And then it makes him look bad, like, oh, you're the guy who took down Bill Cosby, that kind of thing. And he even alluded to in the stand-up that Bill Cosby was Teflon.
Mm-hmm.
So it even speaks more to my, like, why was he allowed to be taken down like this? Not saying he shouldn't, but I'm just curious how that happened. So we have a part 2 to the Rogan and Hannibal clip.
But so that was the thing where instead of just having this show that I was able to, it was this energy around it, in 2005, July, all early 2005. It was this energy around it where if I was going to do press around that time, they were definitely going to...
What year was it?
This was 2015, 2 years ago.
You said
2005. Sorry, yeah, 2015. Yeah. And that show in Philly was October 2014. So, yeah, it just kind of really affected the energy around it as far and my want and eagerness to do a lot of press just because I knew it was
going to come up.
Yeah, and I was just like, that was that. I'm not saying that that's the reason my show's not on anymore at all. Just before people were like, your show sucked. That's why I don't know.
And he had the self-awareness to say, if I go out here, I'm doing all the Lettermans and all these shows, and then I keep getting asked, so about Bill Cosby, so about Bill Cosby, so about Bill Cosby. That's how you get your coon card real quick. He's making that calculation. You can hear it in his voice that he didn't really say that, but he understands that this could clearly be perceived as a butter biscuit of your show for taking Bill down.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm saying that I don't think that's the case.
For one season, and then it was gone.
And then for him to be on it and take him at his word, for him to be on his 4th production deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously he did a lot of writing for people and, he was funny like that. But on the other hand though is I've never heard of this guy before. And now you're taking down.
Well, he does have a resume. He does. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just saying, looking at it, okay.
What I mean is on my consciousness, my entertainment radar,
mm-hmm.
I'm like, who is Hannibal Buress? So it seemed very opportunistic. That's the point I'm trying to highlight is this person I never heard of. And it's a lot of comedians that do a lot of work and a lot of writing behind the scenes that you never actually hear of. So I'm not saying he's not talented. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you put 2 and 2 together, it could look to be 4, right? Like, okay, you did the Cosby joke, you get a show. Wow. Like that looks fishy, which I'm not saying that's happened, but I'm just saying this is how the ball got rolling. But now we get to why it actually could take hold. Bill did himself no favors after the Cosby show.
In the old days, you couldn't hook a school because behind every drawn shade was an eye. And before your mother got off the bus and to the house, she knew exactly where you had gone, who had gone into the house. Parents don't know that today. I'm talking about these people who cry when their son is standing there in an orange suit. Where were you when he was 2? Where were you when he was 12? Where were you when he was 18? And how come you don't know he had a pistol? These are not political criminals. These are people going around stealing Coca-Cola. People getting shot in the back of the head over a piece of pound cake. And then we all run out and we're outraged. Oh, the cops shouldn't have shot him. What the hell was he doing with the pound cake in his hand?
All right, so I don't know the pound cake reference.
I don't know it either.
Oh, really?
Obviously, yeah, no, I don't know where this is the famous pound cake speech. This was the beginning of the end of Bill Cosby. When you start talking in terms of these people,
right.
We got to look at the timing. This was May 2004 when he gave this speech. And then all of a sudden, this case comes back up with the woman and it's civil case. You know what I'm saying? That's when the civil case first started. So it's like, I don't know what was going on with Bill, but when you start using, like I said, words of these people and making the appearance that people are robbing each other for Coca-Cola and shooting each other back of the head for a piece of cake. We've talked about this numerous times on this show about the drug epidemic and the crime bill and all these things that played into this.
It's like, had Bill never seen The Wire or something that he just felt this was what it was?
Well, this Bill is true blue boule. It's like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. I didn't ask anybody for any favors. Did it on my own, that kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. And what happens is he lost timing with the quote unquote community, which is a real thing. Because once you lose that connectivity, that tether, and I'll give you an example, Oprah, she was very anti-hip hop, but Oprah was wise enough to read the tea leaves and say, you know what? I need to make good with hip hop. I need to go sit down with Jay-Z in Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying, and make good with hip hop because
she needs it.
If you're against hip hop,
yeah.
I mean, it's a whole.
Then you ain't black. No, then you ain't black. As Joe would say. And the funny thing is, Bill Cosby was very accepting of hip hop, especially on his show. The early iteration of it, like the breakdance and that kind of episodes that kind of played into that. He even brought several rappers in on Different World, which was another show of his. That followed up the Cosby Show. Right. So it wasn't like he was anti-hip hop. He was pro black excellence, what they would say, or respectability. Yeah. And it's like, this guy, we got to get out of here. So that's the pound cake speech. It's the second part if you want to listen to it, or we can skip over. I do. Okay.
Brown versus the Board of Education is no longer the white person's problem. We've got to take the neighborhood back. We've got to go in there. It's right around the corner. It's standing on the corner. It can't speak English. It doesn't want to speak English. I can't even talk the way these people talk. Why you ain't where you is, go there. I don't know who these people are. And I blamed the kid until I heard the mother talk. And then I heard the father talk. This is all in the house. Everybody knows it's important to speak English, except these knuckleheads. You can't land a plane with why you ain't You can't be a doctor with that kind of crap coming out of your mouth. Why can't you hit the streets? Why can't you clean it out yourself? It's our time now, ladies and gentlemen. It is our time. And I have good news for you. It's not about money. It's about you doing something that ordinarily we do. Get in somebody else's business. It's time for you to not accept this language that these people are speaking, which will take them nowhere. What the hell good is Brown versus the Board of Education if nobody wants it?
Do you know the setting of this speech? Who the audience was?
This was at the 50th anniversary of the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision.
Boule.
Very boule. Very, very boule. And he even referred to a person as it. said
yeah, it. Well, so yeah, okay. This is wow. That makes so. Not only, I mean, it proves that he was quite removed from life, and for a long time, language didn't just. He just wake up and they talk like this. I mean, this is.
Well, like I said, he. You gotta look at it from 1986 when Cosby came on until he went off television. That was a total change of black culture, or the perception of black culture.
And by the way, I also think he probably really means well. He's like, hey, come on, people, what the hell's going on? This is about money. We need to get our crap together. But that's really from a very, I'll just say privileged standpoint. I mean, have you really looked at what's going on, Bill?
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like he was very tone deaf, but some of the things he's saying is true. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, are you saying it to help people, or are you making it us and them? And if you're making this us and them, the boule is a very small part of society in general. Right. You know, the ruling class is always going to be smaller than the general population, to use a prison term.
So by the same token, while I hear people laughing, they probably like, yeah, Bill, you know, it's like, that was really funny, Bill. Oh, that was great. But let's not do too much of that, because we don't really want people to actually better themselves.
Of course
we don't want them to get a clue.
2004, what happened in 2008? Obama. Mm-hmm. Instantaneously, when Bill gets taken away, that creates a power vacuum in some kind of way. And in nothing but narrative, Obama became the American dad.
Oh, yeah, totally. With mom jeans.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, he became the new American dad, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that power vacuum was real. And like I said, Bill did himself no favors by how he treated, you heard Hannibal Buress, about how he spoke about him. Mm-hmm. And then we have another comedian, D.L. Hughley, gives an account of their interaction.
You had a situation when Bill Cosby called in.
Sure.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I was doing Kiss FM here. Right after CNN, I was doing Kiss FM. I was doing the morning show. Bill Cosby had called in to promote a gig I think he was having in Connecticut or Pennsylvania. And I was like, Bill don't like me, and I don't particularly care for him, so I'm not going to, I'll let you guys do the interviews for pre-tape. And so a girl named Jackie Reed and a cat named Steve Wilson, who were my co-hosts, started interviewing me, but he was such a dick. I find, like, for 5 minutes he's being such a dick. I was like, Mr. Cosby, what is it you like for us to know? He said, who is this? I said, this is D.L. Hughley. You say nigga, and I don't like your comedy. And then he went in, and I was like, with all due respect, Mr. Cosby, I say nigga, but no co-ed has ever woke up drug with her drawers on backwards.
Boy! I'm sure he said that. Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll never know, but it seems that on the comedic circuit, especially the black comedic circuit, this was common knowledge. That's why I said we can't absolve Bill of anything, because Hannibal Buress said it, D.L. Hughley said it, very flippantly as well. The way he delivers it, like it's wide known that women get sleepy around you. So we can't. That's why I said I'm not absolving Bill of anything. The first segment of the show was just to show the miscarriage of justice that happened, and if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. The second part I'm going to show is that you don't piss on people on the way up.
No,
because you might need those people. You know what I'm saying? To stand to your defense. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to say this: D.L. Hughley, I think him and Bill Cosby are fraternity brothers in Omega Psi Phi. I think. I'm going off memory here.
D.L. Hughley is a show by himself, because he was really big, and then all of a sudden he's doing podcasts, and he's wearing funky hats, and I'm not quite sure what that guy's deal is.
Well, he's a political operative now.
Okay, that explains
Whenever
it.
they need him to push, and he's in one of those big markets. And I always reference back to the black radio. And in this clip, he's talking about their interaction on the black radio. I think he's out in L.A. and one of the big, quote unquote, urban stations in L.A. So you could tell he's a political operative because when it comes to black and brown relations, and the fact that's in L.A., which has a large black and brown listening, he's very tepid how he handles that topic. So he's very D, and the D in D.L. Hughley stand for Democrat for sure.
Got it.
So let's just listen to him and his interaction with Cosby on part 2.
And we go back and forth and back and forth. I said, I respect, you could be my son. I said, but I'm not. And I said, everything you are because of your experiences, and I appreciate that, but you're not going to denigrate what I've been through. And I said, no one has ever, out of all the words people have ever said to me, no one's ever said rape. No one's ever said, we had this argument, right? And so I worked, Hot 107, Kiss FM was owned by Emmys. Bill Cosby, like, that tape will never air. This is a true story. He said, that tape is not gonna air. And I said, the fuck it ain't. And 10 minutes later, all the people from Emmys came down, Emmys Communications, took the tape, asked, made sure nobody had a copy of it, said if it ever airs, if this airs, nobody in here will work in radio again. So I know that cat had the power to make people do shit like that.
This was 2009, right?
2009.
So this is way before Hannibal Buress.
But even before that, even if you read Time and Newsweek, in the very back of the paper, it talked about all these rape allegations. I grew up in L.A. and did warm up for a lot of those shows. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. Like, Cliff Huxtable is innocent, but Bill Cosby fucked every one of them girls. But the character is innocent. The dude ain't. And I don't even think that cats like that thought it was necessarily a wrong thing to do. They just kind of thought it's what you did. You gave some people dope and they did this. They knew what the deal was. So I wasn't one of those cats who believed he was innocent just because he was funny.
Emmys. Interesting.
I think he summarized a lot of feelings that Cliff Huxtable, innocent. Bill Cosby, a lot of smoke. When there's a lot of smoke, there got to be some fire. But how do you separate the two? How do you remove a large segment of your childhood? And I'm not talking about with the show, but we're talking about before with television and how it played into the family. 8 o'clock Thursday, you knew where you were going to be at. You're going to be in the living room. The dish was going to be washed. You know what I'm saying? Everything. You're ready for that show to come on. And it's like you live vicariously through that family. And it inspired a lot of people to go to college and even to show Different World. Just a little inside baseball on me. Dwayne Wayne was a huge inspiration for me. To be smart and cool. It's like you never saw that on TV before.
Right.
So I can see that, and funny. Okay, yeah, I can see that. So how do you how do you carve out that out of your memory? This is why this was a struggle for a lot of people. It's like, but at the same time, it's like, Bill, 60, 70 women? Like, it gotta be one or two.
It could be interesting. It could be part of a binary 2-part kind of MK Ultra thing.
And I think so, because it's hard to reconcile with this.
Well, yeah, it confuses your brain to a huge degree. Interesting. Well, I mean, and what I'm saying is that maybe there's a part 2 that can be used, or it's a continuing program. Just taking that as a possibility. I'm not saying that that's what it is.
Well, let's go ahead and listen to DL's last clip, and then we'll get into maybe some MK connections.
So what did you specifically hear? Did you ever have like one of the girls approach you in a situation?
Yes, it was always in the like, I'll never forget, I ain't gonna say this cat's name, but when they were doing either the It was a show that came out, Different World. He was a cat who was a stage manager there, and they had let him direct one of the shows. He got to direct one of those shows, but he was a stage manager, and he was late. And that man made that other one black, Bill Cosby, made that black man sit down there like he was a child on the floor, like a child. I was like, what is this shit right here? Made him do that in front of me. So I've never had this kind of image that was kind of inundated with the idea that because he was a staggeringly talented cat that he wasn't incapable of doing some of the shit people accuse him of.
Well, I mean, Bill Cosby's always seemed to have like sort of a beef with a lot of other black comedians.
Bill Cosby tried to. This is what people don't understand. When people say that you wouldn't be if it wasn't for Bill Cosby, if Bill Cosby had owned NBC, if Bill Cosby, he sat on the board of Warner Brothers, Time Warner, he tried to stop HBO from happening. He hated it. So all the comics you know, love, and respect, from the Chappelles to the Martins to the Tuckers to the Def Jam to the Kings of Comedy, he tried to stop from happening. That's just true. I'm not trying to sell his character. That's absolutely true.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten all about that. I remember when he was so big that he owned like all this stuff, and he was a huge shareholder, and he had power at NBC. It was crazy. This is good. Thanks for bringing this up.
He tried to stop HBO, which would have stopped Def Jam.
Def Comedy Jam, sure.
Yeah, which was like the catapult for
hip-hop.
Hip-hop comedy. No Martin. Martin was the heir apparent to him. I mean, like, all this is connected because, and I've mentioned this before, that 8 o'clock Thursday time slot, something's magical about that with Black America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, because it was Cosby owned it first, then he went away, and then Martin fell into that time slot. That was changing of the guard.
Let me just give you an opposite side just for a second, and you know, I know that you're ramping up towards something here, but what if Cosby saw it right, and he saw the abuse that was coming down the pike with hip hop and the records and let's just call it general trauma-based entertainment. What if he saw that coming down the pike, and what he was trying to do was say, people, stop. You got to stop this. This is crazy. We're gonna annihilate ourselves. And maybe that's what he was saying, and the way it came out is Cosby wanted to stop Def Comedy Jam. Because
I'm not disagreeing with you, because I think he saw it right too.
Yeah,
but it was not the issue I had with the whole how.
No, I understand. I understand
because it's seek first to understand, then to be understood, and this is the role of an elder to say, "Oh, I remember when I was that age once, and I was doing what was that Uptown Saturday Night with Sidney Poitier, and I mean he has. I mean Bill wasn't the squeakiest clean person. That's the thing. Is like it's the hypocrisy." If you were like squeaky clean, okay, then you can, have the more high ground.
But you watch him with Sammy and Hefner on the Playboy at night. Back in the like early 70s or something, late 60s. Yeah, those cats had it going on, man. You could tell it was swinging. That was great.
And that's the thing is like, Bill, you've been where we were at.
Yeah.
You see, and it's that seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's where Bill's undoing was, that he didn't stay tied in with, the younger comics. Being like, you know what? Let me show you a trick so you don't have to use so many cuss words.
Right.
Because that's the thing. Let me show you how timing, that kind of, it's the transfer of knowledge and, that stuff you can't pay for. But he was like, no, I'm going to have it my way. Well, and these guys is my picks, and they're perfect and pure.
There are also choices you make as you get older. Where I turned 57 in a couple of days, and I'm not. It's like now I'm on the other side, right? So now it's I one day will be old and be meant to cleaned up and swept under the carpet, and so you can point at the next generation coming along, which I see as older millennials, 28, 29, and say, you're doing it wrong. Or, well, here's a path and go develop and don't try to, micromanage language, which of course is what a lot of what comedy is about.
Can you get the door for just a second? Just because I think we had to have a inside conversation on something.
Not a problem. Okay. All right. Just us now.
All right. Just us. You could have been the Bill Cosby to me by saying, hey, young man, this is how podcasting is done. And if you can't stick to a certain day every week at a certain time, you know, you're going to fail and I'm going to not do business with you. You know, that kind of thing. Right. But you were like, hey, the proof is in the pudding. This is what, you know, this is what I'm saying. Like, you could have took that I know everything because I'm the podfather kind of thing, kind of tone, but you're like, no, you kind of let me feel my way through it. And it made me earn the respect to you because, like, okay, I'm talking to the podfather here. If he's saying we need to be on a schedule, you know what I'm saying? Like, who am I to, but it's the approach. So I just want to say that it's the approach. You know, it's the way you come, especially when you're coming at younger people. Mm-hmm. I mean, you already got a chip on your shoulder. I mean, luckily we're two mature men, you know, but these guys 20s, best, and you're coming in, that'll never work. You know, I hate hip hop. You know, turn down the music, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to just have that conversation right quick.
Okay, all right, got it. Well, and thank you. I'm glad that you see it that way. And I think that, approach is everything, no doubt about it. But of course, I also don't have a seat on the board at NBC. I'm not worth $2 billion. Not yet. All right, doors open again.
We're working on it.
Not yet. Thanks, Mo. I appreciate that.
We're working on it. You're still a young man. We'll get you there by the time Cosby age.
Yeah, I'm hanging on.
But since you brought up Playboy, we got to look into this relationship with Playboy, Bill Cosby, and Hugh Hefner. So let's look at Hugh Hefner's bedroom antics.
Well, guys, Holly Madison's juicy memoir, Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny, reveals secrets from behind the closed gates of the Playboy Mansion. Not surprisingly, the tell-all is stirring the pot with Hugh Hefner, but his former #1 girlfriend is not done talking. Check out what Holly says Hef used to do to pit the girlfriends against each other. It's our Toyota People Pick of the Day. There's so many interesting things revealed. Some of those things were Hef's kind of rules, the things he liked, didn't like. So you've revealed some very explicit details here about your first sexual encounter with Hugh Hefner. You were offered Quaaludes. You said no. You ended up drinking a lot to kind of make it through the night. He wanted you to put on a show of sorts, and as well as the other girls. What's the bottom line here? Do any of the girlfriends really love Hef and the kinds of sort of rituals or these sort of games or requirements that are sort of put on all of them in the bedroom?
You know, when I first moved in, there were 6 other girls, and it just seemed like everybody wanted to get all that kind of thing over with very quickly, and didn't really seem into it.
How much about your past are you going to let your daughter know about, or do you want her to read this book eventually? You had to be thinking about that as you were revealing some of these things, that she's going to see this and know this.
Yeah, one day when Rainbow's old enough, she'll definitely, be able to read the book, and I'm very proud of the book, and, even though there's some uncomfortable things for me in there, it's something I'm proud of sharing my story, and I hope that other people can learn from it.
Learn from it. Mm-hmm.
So we see Quaaludes.
Quaaludes, yeah, interesting.
But it's amazing. Hugh Hefner, American icon.
No
He's
takedown.
running around with, no takedown. 16, 17, allegedly 17, 18-year-old girls coming in and out of the mansion. Like I said, it was America's whorehouse. For good or bad, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're not, but we have to call it what it is. We have these allegations coming out of these rituals that she called it.
Yeah.
And, he was fine. We love you.
Isn't that amazing?
So now we're going to go over to, is there anything you want to say on that?
I'm digging. Dude, you brought the Quaaludes clip from Hefner. I mean, that was impressive. A good one.
All right, so let's get deeper into Bill Cosby and Hugh Hefner. This is Mark Ebner, who is a Hollywood reporter and sleuth. So we got to be serious. This is the Lip TV.
Honestly, I want to get a few more points out because it's really important, along the line of the Quaaludes and that sort of thing. People have been asking, there's no proof he raped anybody. Show us the prescription pills. Show us the blood evidence. Show us this and show us that. How about believing these women for starters? But beyond that, if you want to trace if you want to follow the trail of drugs, Bill Cosby, I think you need look no further than the Playboy Mansion and Hugh Hefner, who I think has been quoted as saying, as calling Quaaludes, what was it, thigh openers?
Yeah.
I think that's the quote. I also would look even closer into the mansion and look at his personal physician, Mark Saginaw. Is that guy dead yet, by the way?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
He probably should be. But regardless, this guy, put that together, that he not only had his personal physician on call, quite possibly for date rape drugs whenever he wanted them. And I'm talking about Hefner, and I'm talking about Cosby, and I'm talking about any other, of these hanger-ons at the Playboy Mansion. It's starting to make sense that you would probably look no further than Mark Saginaw's prescription pad.
Oh my. How about that? And then the name Mark Saginaw pops up, a National Enquirer story, which, as we know from Men in Black, is real. And there it is. Expose Bill Cosby's cronies who enabled his twisted crimes. Even his former TV co-star Jimmy J.J. Walker is now calling Bill Cosby the O.J. Simpson of the comedy world.
And that was the pylon. Like, you had co-stars on the show.
Right. The pylon. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everybody just started piling on, probably rightfully so. Like I said, with this much smoke, it has to be some fire there. And just as I was mentioning Martin Lawrence before, it's a very interesting person that accused Bill Cosby of this crime that got no press. Lark Voorhees. Are you familiar with Lark Voorhees? Lisa Turtle from Saved by the Bell.
No, I don't know anything about
it. She had a complete meltdown in front of everybody. She was the black girl on Saved by the Bell, which was another one of my childhood shows. And when I go back and look at her and what happened to her, she clearly suffers from some kind of multiple personality kind of thing going on, which could easily be DID. But she had always throwing up the 3 6s hand sign and all the Illuminati hand signs in the Saved by the Bell ads.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, wow, but nobody gave her the time of day to speak about it because they wanted to be white women being attacked by Bill Cosby.
Schizoaffective disorder.
Yes, I had a whole set of clips to go down the rabbit hole, maybe another time for another day, but it was fascinating that she didn't get any press, but her meltdown was covered in the media, but they never connected her to Cosby. And I just found that
interesting.
A glaring omission, excuse me. Yeah. So, you want to hear more from Mark Ebner?
Yeah. This is good.
Let's go.
Then I would look even deeper, and I've been saying this for a long time. I can't wait for a journalist more savvy than I am to start looking into the death of the playmate Paige Young, who died of an accidental overdose of barbiturates. It's something doesn't smell right, and it's coming out of the Playboy Mansion.
Okay, but here's the thing. First of all, there was some references to Hefner and what had happened there and Bill Cosby, and then Hefner somehow deftly steered the publicity away from the mansion. But secondly, just because people were taking Quaaludes in the 70s at the Playboy Mansion isn't evidence.
I certainly was. I was taking Quaaludes in the 70s. So I have no doubt that these quote-unquote thigh openers were probably at one time Bill Cosby's knockout drug of choice.
Well, it's interesting theory, but I mean, the idea that you automatically can, I mean, in a court of law, you can't associate the fact that he purchased Quaaludes with the fact that these women were given them involuntarily. I mean, I think that's the missing link from the reports that we're seeing on Cosby, and the idea that he said in a deposition that he used them and he used them with women to have sex isn't the same as an admission that he gave them to them without their consent.
Oh yeah, the Paige Young thing. I remember looking at this. That would, I mean, she overdosed, and I think she shot herself in the head while on an American flag with a pentagram. All kinds of weird stuff. And like Hugh Hefner is the devil. That was her parting shot, I think.
Well, maybe she's on something there. But why? How is it that Hugh Hefner is able to steer the attention away from him? Like, don't look over here.
Oh, well, that's easy. Hugh Hefner has the goods on a lot of powerful people. What, you want to screw with?
He might be the Epstein of his time.
Yes, exactly. You want to screw with Hef? No, that was not a good idea.
Well, there's something deeper there with Hef, but we're going to get to it. So we got Hefner, we got Quaaludes, aka thought openers, being passed around like candy. But my question is this. Who the hell is still making Quaaludes?
Oh, I don't know if they are. Are they still being made?
They have to be. He's getting them prescribed to him.
They're probably they're probably out of patent, so.
In a time where we can't get hydroxychloroquine and horse paste, you know what I'm saying? But Bill Cosby can get some daggone vintage, what was it, 74 Quaaludes? Oh, that was a year. Let me get some of those. What?
I have never had a Quaalude, so I really wouldn't know.
No, what I'm saying is, who's making them? They always want to stop at Bill. Okay, who wrote the prescription? Notice on the Bill Cosby side, I mean, on the Michael Jackson side, we had the doctor.
There's an interesting article here I'll put in the show notes from the BBC titled "The Rise and Fall of Quaaludes," which is actually a trade name. It's methaqualone is the actual drug. First synthesized in 1951 in India. Germany and Japan were the first big markets where the drug racked up an extensive record of addiction and abuse. In the UK, it was known as Mandrax, a name still used in South Africa. The doctors were essentially giving them out like candy, says Justin Gass, author of the book about the drug. It was very easy to obtain Quaaludes in the mid to late 70s and early 80s.
And one of pop culture's most famous quotes, "Another Quaalude, you love me in the morning." What was Scarface really saying?
Right.
Just things to make you say, what? And no, everybody.
I know. So then it became Rufinol.
Oh.
Yeah.
Roofies. Which is another problematic drug. Who's making this stuff? Like with Michael Jackson, we know the doctor who gave it to him. Mm-hmm. Bill Cosby, nobody except this guy, Ebner, even mentions the name of the doctor.
Right.
Okay, now we have the doctor who's still manufacturing these thought openers. It's a clear, I mean, like I said, in the scope of how we see medical and pharmaceuticals now, how they can deem something as bad.
Well, no, it's only bad when they can't make a lot of money on it because they don't have the patent. You see.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, Bill Cosby wasn't the only one getting, like, they wasn't whipping up a special batch for, or maybe they was. Maybe he had that much money. He's like, hey, I need you to fire out the machines. It's going to be a busy weekend. But just to show you Bill Cosby's connection with a black celebrity, and then his connection with the Playboy Mansion, we have John Sally here of the Bad Boy fame, not Bad Boy the movie, but Bad Boy. Well, he wasn't Bad Boy the movie too, but Bad Boy's Detroit Pistons and the Chicago Bulls, famous basketball player. He's going to give his take on Bill Cosby and the Playboy Mansion.
So you just asked me about Bill Cosby. Let me just say this one thing about Bill Cosby. I don't know. I miss Doc. And he taught me a lot of things. He always had wise things to say.
You guys knew each other?
Yeah, man.
Really?
I became really cool with him in 1989. We're both in the same fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Incorporated.
Okay.
And he, every year I would see him. I'd go to the Playboy Jazz Festival. I'd sit there. He'd give me jewels, and he would talk about things. He also was isolated and put into a point. And I also know the time they were saying all that was going on, and people wanted to look at his wife. He got kicked out of his house for like 2 years when he was hosting the Tonight Show for Johnny Carson. Johnny was going through his depression, and Bill Cosby was hosting the Tonight Show and living at the Playboy Mansion.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
his wife kicked him out.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Like, this is the trip. When they hit you up with all of this that we see now, it has to move fast, and no one does research. And they crucified him, and they used. Wait, I'm not knowing if he's right or wrong. Yeah. I'm just telling you, according to what Time Magazine or Newsweek Magazine had all the women's heads and sitting there, people were yelling out. There was a ton of things happening saying this dude was at this point and he was guilty and was going down and down and down.
Wow.
Living at the Playboy Mansion.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, Johnny Carson was married 20 times.
Yeah, I'm just saying that doesn't jibe well with the image of Bill Cosby.
No.
And this is all news to me. I didn't know he was that connected to Bill Cosby until I to the Playboy Mansion and Hugh Hefner until I started doing the show research for the show. And this was not the original path.
Did you watch any of the actual YouTube videos of the Playboy After Dark with Cosby?
Well, I didn't watch that, but I do have an ad for the Playboy Jazz Fest in 2011. Let me set this up right quick. So, Hef is sitting with one of his beauties, and Bill is looking like he's older now. And he's like, well, let's listen to the clip. So we have Hugh, a beautiful woman, and Bill, and listen to the transaction or the conversation they have.
This festival of the Playboy Jazz Festival, June 11th and 12th. Your words, what do you know it will be?
It'll be a grand party, the party of the year, an unforgettable weekend, and a long history of jazz.
Thank you.
My pleasure, Bill.
All right, take care.
Love you.
Thank you. I love you. Take care. I wish you had a present for me.
Well, I do. You're going to be really surprised.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. All right. Party, party. Party, party.
Hef told me I was with you. Get it?
Now, what were we seeing there?
So basically,
that was the present.
Yes. So the present was he was asking for a girl.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I wish you brought me a present." Hef's like, "I got something for you." And then Granny comes in, an old lady. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just going to show like how they talked about women. It's like, "Oh, you got a present for me?" Oh, yeah, that kind of thing. So this is 2011.
Wait. No.
2011 Jazz Fest. This is from YouTube. Yes.
Are you sure about
that? The blurb on the show says Bill Cosby, Hugh Hefner, and Playboy mate Crystal McCall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
McCahill talk about the 2011 Playboy Jazz Festival. Granny joins in on the fun, the party of the summer.
The Bachelor guy just got canceled for less. You know, the new I'm sorry, the Bachelor, the Jeopardy host, the executive producer who was going to start hosting it, and they went back and found some podcast from 2010.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
And we have Hugh Hefner and Bill Cosby talking about presents in 2011. This is 5-6 years.
Ain't that crazy?
Ain't that convenient? Ain't that convenient? But it is still on YouTube to this day.
Wow.
Very interesting. So that's what money will get you.
Right.
Well, not even money, but you know what I'm saying? Money and power and leverage. Speaking of money, we like new money.
I like brand new money. I don't want any money around me that's not. I'd almost rather have a new one than an old 20. Now, that's kind of dumb, isn't it? But there's something about new money that excites you. You like $100 bills?
Oh, yeah. I like new money, too.
Oh, most beautiful thing on earth is a $100 bill. I hadn't seen a woman as good looking as a $100 bill. There's something about a $100 bill that excites you.
Right. So the new money, I would say we have... we got Satoshis you can hook us up with. You can boost us in one of the Podcasting 2.0 apps, newpodcastapps.com. Stream us sats every single minute you're listening to the show. We also love your Fiat Fund coupons, and a lot of that is coming in through PayPal and Cash App, and now we have a P.O. box as well. So here's the rest of our producers. We're going to read out notes up until including $30, and then we'll just match up the name with the amounts for the rest. And again, we appreciate the value that everybody brought and sticking with us despite some of the gaps in programming. So $40 from Edwin Torres, and he would like some GBG. We know what that means. Give blacks guns. So here we go.
Do we have a ballot?
Where's that from, Mo?
That's from Don't Be a Menace to Society While Drinking Juice in the Hood. One of the most classic movies.
I love it. I love it. It's good. Thanks, Edwin. Ibrahim Habi, 3982. Thanks, Mo and Adam, for expanding my brain every time I listen. As a black body living in France and coming from a former French colony in Africa, your podcast has shed light on so many similarities on our oppression from the colonizers. First donation, more to come. Please undeadbeat me. We call it de-deadbeating. Keep up the good work, Ibrahim.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
I like hearing that. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Keep it coming, Ibrahim. Sam of the Beargrass, 3633, and says, after listening to the last 3 episodes and experiencing in real time the sudden forced muzzling of children as young as 2 years old, for the next 270 days where I live, one thing is painfully clear. All of this abuse is directed primarily at the youth. Can I please have some Mo Karma for all the kids out there and anything else you think would help? Well, Mo Karma always does do wonders.
You've got
Mo Karma.
Now, Dodge Gaskill comes in too because I think he's on a self-installed subscription per show, and so we appreciate the 2 donations of $33.33, which he says, great podcast once again, and go podcasting, and we thank you for that very much. Benjamin Bateman, $33.33, keep doing the work, stay safe, he says. Greg Wheeler Jr., $33.33, truly appreciate your honest, well-researched, and invaluable conversations. You and Adam are essential voices in our world and give human resources like myself hope and the peace of mind that I'm not alone in my thoughts. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Love you guys. This is my first donation. I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute, as I really appreciate the absence of sponsors and agendas. Yes, it's value for value. Thank you again for all you do, for what both of you are doing.
He didn't ask to be de-deadbeated, so I didn't make mention.
Let's do it anyway. Might as well.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
Because he's not, so he might as well get it. And Michael Olson, also no longer a deadbeat, wants a de-deadbeating.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
With 3333. Trusted influencer with 3333. Mo and Adam, thank you, with a couple of emojis that translated weirdly on my spreadsheet. I'm sure it was waving hands. Tiffany Hewitt, $30. Dear Mo and Adam, thank you for all the great information you provide. This show is one of a kind. No jingles, no karma, but I'd like to give a shout out to my smoking hot boyfriend, Greg, who has had a birthday on July 30th and introduced me to this amazing show. Sorry about the tardiness. Happy birthday, Greg. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Edwin Torres, $30. He's a Ronimo donor, and he wants a GBG.
Do we have a ballot?
And he came in twice, again, on a self-imposed repeating schedule where he asked for the GBG. We just got that for you. And he says, new money is sweet. Indeed it is. And then our final note that we're going to read out from Shannon Shelton, also $30. Mo, first I want to thank you for this show. I've learned so much because your perspective has challenged what I thought I knew. As a rural white Christian, a.k.a. public enemy number one, I've always, that's all a matter of perspective. I've always taught my kids that God sees everyone equally. Skin color doesn't matter. Different people have different cultures, and not understanding someone's culture is not racism. We just need to listen and try to understand. After my friend, white, married to her husband, black, and we all got together, I could hear him tell his mom to stop acting black around the white people. I was shocked. I don't have many black friends, and she's fantastic. It made me sad that he felt like they had to act differently around us. I'm thrilled to hear you and Adam have real conversations about real topics and that you don't self-censor. Second, WAP 1 and 2 killed me. I know that girls are taught their bodies can be on display and guys should shut up and other women should be supportive of them dressing like street workers or else. I've often spoken out against this insanity, but I feel like it has little to no effect. Mean girls are real, and until parents really get a grip on teaching their children real values instead of allowing Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to program them, it'll be an uphill battle. It is a battle, however, I'm one that I'm willing to continue to fight until God takes me home. Thank you again. Shannon, thank you.
Great note.
Fantastic note.
And I think she's deadbeating as well, if I'm not mistaken.
She's getting it.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
And, excuse me, just for time's sake, we're going to stop reading the notes under the 30 level, but we will, of course, thank everybody. At the 20s, we see Moe Factz, Maureen. We see Rianne Fernie, Paul E. Lovato, Robert D. Dunbar, Susan Tillett, and Shazir. And then we have 1892 from G. McDonald. And then at $10, we thank Christopher Latta, Terrence Trent, Chef Elvis Rosenberg, Michael Hanna, Andrea, Dame Digital, Frequency Records, Charles A. Van de Zande, Andrea again with $10. Thank you, Andrea, for your weeklies or showlies. Then David Ackerman at $9, Terry Keller with $8.22, Timothy Wittefein with $8.11, and finally we wind up with Vincent Farrell with $5.55.
And I think you may have missed two people.
Oh, okay, please.
Yeah, I want to make sure because, like I said,
no, go for it.
Everybody value matters, and that's Grant Convey, 25, and Clinton at 23.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. I did miss those. That was a scroll problem. Okay.
I know y'all wanted us to slip so you can make it to the top of the next show, but we got you. Speaking of got you, it's time to start calling out the deadbeats.
Yeah, exactly. We do need to do some of that.
Yeah, we've been nice as far as letting you be in your ears, but deadbeats have to be called out, and we don't call you out.
Ew, you're a deadbeat.
And I even got a special jingle for you to be called out. So if you know people that are deadbeating, make them feel good about themselves by calling them out.
And we thank all these producers and, again, our executive and associate executive producer for episode 65 of Moe Factz with Adam Curry. Thank you again. Keep boosting us. Use those new apps, newpodcastapps.com. Become part of the future with Bitcoins and splashing sats everywhere. And your dollars, your fiat fund coupons, your cuck bucks, all welcome at mofactz.com, directly to our donation page at mofundme.com. Thank you all very much.
So now we've made the connection with Bill Cosby in the Playboy Mansion and Hugh Hefner. We got to look and see how America remembered the complicated legacy of Hugh Hefner.
We're remembering the very influential life of Hugh Hefner. He made his network television debut in 1956 on CBS. Speaking to Mike Wallace, Hefner defended the image of Playboy magazine.
Sex always will be an important part of the book because sex is probably the single thing that men are most interested in.
Oh, with this, I think that you'll agree. It's a sniggering kind of sex. It's a lascivious kind of sex. It certainly isn't a healthy approach to sex. You suggest that it is.
I would not only suggest that, I would say rather strongly. We consider it a pretty healthy attitude.
Well, by the 1970s, Playboy had more than 7 million readers. Wow, and Hefner was certainly a household name. He built an empire on the simple idea that sex is important to people. With us from Los Angeles, Matt Bellany. He's editorial director of The Hollywood Reporter. Good morning to you, Matt.
Good morning.
Well, he certainly changed the magazine culture. He changed the American sex culture, if you will. But that came with some controversy. Back in the day, there were a lot of protests about how women were portrayed in the magazine. What do the critics say today about the legacy that he's left?
I think it's a very complicated legacy because on the one hand, Playboy was criticized. It was the first major mainstream magazine to feature nude women, and it was in the context of politics and lifestyle and all these other things, but it was essentially a naked women magazine. And people like Gloria Steinem at the time, very opposed, said Playboy could fill a book with what it doesn't know about women.
Gloria Steinem.
One of our friends from many, many, many episodes of Moe Factz.
Yes, and Gloria Steinem was backed by the CIA to be placed into 17 magazines.
She reported to the CIA. I mean, she was CIA.
Right. So if that case, who's to say that Hugh Hefner wasn't CIA? Because he did make his debut as the commentator said, on CBS. What do you call CBS?
The Central Intelligence Broadcasting System.
And guess who Hugh Hefner's cousin is? George Bush.
You're kidding me.
I kid you not. There's an article, you can put it in the show notes, of CBS Hefner odd cousin. Yes. So now we have these two people popping up with magazines around about the same time. Exploring sexuality, women's sexuality, and I just find it fascinating that we have Gloria Steinem commenting on Hugh Hefner, and Hugh Hefner is remembered as a complicated legacy. Now, he's been known to have spread around his own share of thigh openers. No big deal. It's just Hugh being Hugh. You understand now. You understand, like when you look at this,
right. But again, if he was indeed a kind of Epstein and he had the goods on everybody, he had big protection. So and you're really convincing me that Hefner may have had that kind of role. So yes, I agree. I agree what you're saying.
Yes.
But
I'm just saying, like, on the surface level.
Yeah, on the surface level.
If you hear the news stories and you hear, well, Bill's locked down, you know what I'm saying, doing a 3 to 10 up the river. And he was just saying there's a smoking jacket, you know what I'm saying, flanked by 3 beautiful blondes.
That's right.
So how's that work out?
Well, pretty good for the white guy.
It sounds like it did. Let's continue on with Hugh Hefner's complicated legacy.
But on the other hand, it was filled with progressive politics, and it was one of the few magazines that they interviewed MLK and they interviewed Muhammad Ali, and they did a lot of articles that were very progressive in the politics. They were pro-choice at a time when not many outlets were openly so, and they were very pro-First Amendment, and these causes that the culture sort of caught up to. But Playboy was doing it at a time in the 50s, 60s, 70s when it wasn't that accepted from big national magazines like that.
When I was growing up, there were 2 magazines you collected. One was Playboy and the other was National Geographic.
Two very different.
Yeah. Matt, what happens going forward? We know that his son Cooper is going to be taking over the magazine. Circulation has dropped significantly, as have many industry magazines as well. How does the magazine and the brand go forward in a digital age?
It's a tough road. I mean, recently, Cooper Hefner, Hugh's son, has assumed control of the brand, but the magazine, they have gone through a rocky tenure with multiple editors. They got rid of nude pictures, then they brought them back. They have a very lucrative licensing business where the Playboy brand is very meaningful around the world, but in the U.S., they really have struggled, and the culture has sort of gone beyond Playboy. They have to figure out a way to make the Playboy brand relevant in today's media and cultural environment.
Of course, everyone will remember that iconic Playboy bunny that he founded, right? Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
2 things. One, I think that's Charlie Rose who was talking in the beginning.
Oh, Charlie loves him some Hugh, boy.
Right. So, Charlie, he got his own takedown. The only, and with white men, it's always like he's a sad, pathetic old man holding his robe open in front of young girls. So, his own separate type of takedown. But what I thought interesting was he said something there that I'd like to know your perspective on. He said, when I was a kid, we saved two kind of magazines, Playboy magazine and National Geographic, to which all the female hosts on the show go, ha, 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 that's a very different kind. But I know what Charlie meant. And I'm curious if how this was for you. We like National Geographic for a short time. I'm talking, we're like 12, 11.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
I know why.
because you could see boobies. There were boobs in that thing, baby. That's why. And they were all black boobs, too, but that never mattered to us.
Black and brown boobs.
Right. There were no white boobs in the magazine, but we were just as interested in the boobs no matter what the color they were. Just saying. And not discussed fact of American male pubescence.
You gave me insight on that because I was wondering, who collects National Geographic? I thought he was going to say like Mad Magazine or something like that. But when you say the booby part, I do agree. That was the first thing you try to find when you went to the doctor's office.
Exactly. But notice that it was exciting for the white boys as well as the black and brown boys. No matter, and even though all the boobs were of color.
And let's take it all black and white for a minute. Let's just go Hugh Hefner versus Larry Flint, I believe his name is, a hustler.
Yep, Larry
had a very hard time with the government for trying to do a similar thing.
Much worse than Hugh Hefner.
So why? I mean, it's kind of like the Polanski thing. It's like, why certain people have hard time and then other people have get a pass. But let's just not go there. I just wanted to bring that up as a passing comment. But now we got to go look at the rabbit. So we're going over to the Art of Awakening. Now this is where we get to. This is where we get.
Yeah, this is this is the real power of Playboy. Is this branding? I'm sure of it. Okay.
The rabbit totem spirit.
Hey there, this is Christy with Spirit Animal Oracle, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about the spirit meaning of rabbit. Rabbit, even though it's a pretty small, we think it's a weak animal, it can be an incredibly powerful spirit animal, and it has an abundance of meanings. And speaking of abundance is actually one of rabbit's biggest magic powers, I guess you could say. You know, if you've ever been out in the country in the springtime, you've seen the baby rabbits kind of popping like popcorn right out of the hedges. They they know how to reproduce, and they're legendary for it. And this is there was a scientific study done by somebody at Miami University, and they estimated, they just kind of did the math on rabbits, and their estimate was that at average rates of reproduction, if there was no disease or predation or anything, a single mother rabbit and her female babies could produce over 187 billion offspring in 7 years. Rabbits, well, there's a reason they multiply so fast, because they're prey. A lot of things depend on rabbits, and because they are prey, that really brings up some of the other spiritual associations that rabbit has. Sensitivity is one. Then we're going to look at fear, and fear is a huge one for rabbit. So if you're a rabbit person, you're probably going to be challenged by fear. You're going to have a lot of fear stuff coming up, fears to overcome and so forth.
Oh, wow. I never even thought about the rabbit's place in the world, but he's basically lunch.
Food.
Yeah, that's his entire job. Look pretty, cute, be innocent, and be food.
Sounds like a Playboy bunny to me. But if you look at it and say, okay, rabbit, White Rabbit goes to Alice in Wonderland, going down in the rabbit hole. So are you familiar with Grace Slick?
I know Grace Slick. I've met her. I've hung out with her and her daughter, China.
Okay, so are you aware of their song, The White Rabbit?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Let's listen to Grace Slick breakdown of White Rabbit.
We were talking about something that was going on at the time, and we liked it, and we had a good time. But we were not saying, why don't you guys all go out and take drugs? The only song that talked about drugs as far as Jefferson Starship or Airplane was mine. It was called White Rabbit, and all it was doing was letting my parents and everybody's parents know that they had been reading us books written by British authors. The British had control over the Far East, Middle East, and they had found new drugs, which the writers took and then wrote about. Alice in Wonderland sitting on a psychedelic mushroom. There is a worm that is going to turn into a butterfly who hands her a piece of this mushroom, and she gets literally high. She grows. And so the parents were down on us for taking drugs, so I was just saying, look, you've been reading us drug books for Peter Pan. He sprinkled some white dust all over everybody. So all of these, the British writers mainly, because this stuff hadn't come to America yet, or we didn't care or something, we're talking about how your life will be better if you take a chemical.
Like Quaaludes.
Yeah.
So in the White Rabbit lyrics, I'll just read a couple of lyrics to you. It says, and if you go chasing rabbits and you know you're going to fall. That's one lyric of it. And then she goes down and says, when logic and proportion have fallen dead, and the white knight is talking backwards, and the red queen off with her head. Red queen. That may be a stretch, but what it says is, I believe Playboy and all these things were set up to get rid of logic, proportion. Math is racist. I mean, once you get rid of all of these things and get people in a emotional state like they're doing now, like she was saying, use drugs, get kids hooked on drugs. We have a drug epidemic going on right now that nobody's talking about with fentanyl. I mean, maybe even rivals crack and, the heroin of the 70s. I think these kind of things, Gloria Steinem, 17 magazine, feminism, I think people underestimate magazines, first of all. Magazines, and you can speak more to this, but I know I was at the very end of magazines, the life of magazines. That's something that you look forward to every month to come out, so you can read it and keep up. It was like faster than a book.
Well, it was the same as the Cosby Show before streaming and the non-linear programming. So you would have to watch on Thursday. Everybody knew where you were. Everybody knew when the new National Geographic was coming out. Everybody knew when the Playboy would hit the stands, of course.
It's a shared consciousness, right?
Yes, it was. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So as going back to the totem spirit meaning of the rabbit, she said one rabbit and their offspring could create 1 billion rabbits, right? So one rabbit, Marilyn Monroe, could create billions of Marilyn Monroe wannabes. One Megan Thee Stallion could create millions of wannabe Megan Thee Stallions. They understand. They said, let's use women to push these political ideologies. And on the inverse side of that, we'll have a Gloria Steinem pushing another toxic form of feminism or femininity. Let me say the better word. And they got both sides covered.
You know who runs Playboy now, don't you?
I don't.
Oh, Christy Ann Hefner. Hef's daughter. Oh yeah, and she's woke. And I thought she was gay. I guess I'm wrong about that. It says she's divorced. Yeah, I know. She'd made a lot of changes that people didn't like. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because that was the one place that guys could go to be gods. I mean, the Playboy Mansion was still that. I don't think it has the hey of now. Because like you said, with social media, there's really no need for a Playboy Mansion. Instagram is the Playboy Mansion now. I mean, you could procure.
Right. Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh yeah. No, it's over. No, totally. Right. It's totally over. Totally.
But it had its purpose of bringing in a new thought about sexuality. And a case in point of that is Hugh Hefner's relationship with Alfred Kinsey.
One of the virgins in college that read Kinsey
and believed him was a guy named Hugh Hefner. Okay. Yeah, so he's in college.
Hefner was an advocate for
he reads Kinsey and he says, hey, everybody's been lying to me. They've all been diddling around doing all this stuff, and I have been standing here being a nice guy. Forget it. He says, I will be, and I'm quoting him, Kinsey's pamphleteer. I will be Kinsey's pamphleteer.
Really?
So from there, he began to advocate for changes in the law, and he created a magazine called Playboy, which then he said would reflect what Kinsey had found about human sexuality.
In his fraudulent
data. America was educated by a pedophile whose work was labeled as science. Just as Darwin was the father of legitimizing evolution, Kinsey was the father of legitimizing the sexual revolution and all that's based upon that today.
Sure enough, Hefner was true to his word. Not only did he popularize pornography on a global scale, he also helped to legalize it.
Yeah, the Kinsey report, of course.
Yes. So this is Judith Reisman, and she's been on Kinsey's tail for a very long time now. She's cropped up due to the issue with pornography and porn addiction. And that was from King's Work Studio documentary that I pulled that clip from.
Mm-hmm.
But as I went and started going back and looking at her, she's been doing this since 1990 and even before on Kinsey. So, I mean, before we get into Kinsey and her take on him, anything you want to say about him or
about Kinsey? Oh yeah. Yes. Well, his report was groundbreaking when the first Kinsey report came out about sexuality, and there's even a TV series, Masters of Sex, I think that is partially, if not all, about Kinsey. But what was controversial, one of the many controversial things, was the Kinsey scale, and this was, I think it was, let me look here. 0 to 6, where 0 was you were completely straight and 6 you were homosexual. It's like, you can't really imagine having that scale today in today's woke world, but
or could you? See, that's why I love doing the show with you, because I think
well, maybe
it's apropos now.
Yeah, right.
Because
so
it's not binary or
no,
being gay or straight.
A 3 on the scale is binary, I guess.
Right. So there's grades of gender and sexuality, this gradient across the spectrum. Whereas it used to be gay, straight, or bisexual, right? I mean, that was the...
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, even bisexual took a while for that one to come in.
Right. I'm just saying that I think that fits even more fitting now than even the time it came out.
Well, anyway, there was a lot of controversy about the report. Also, I believe he participated in the study. So there's a lot of issues with it. But could this have been important in this context for how sexuality was really introduced into the public lexicon? You bet. Mm-hmm. You bet.
So let's go. I have Dr. Let me put respect to her name, Dr. Judith Reisman, and this is 1990, December 5th. She's on the Phil Donahue show.
In a nutshell, it's fundamentally all the information on children is based on sexual abuse of 317 infants and children from 2 months of age to 14 years of age, the majority of them, in fact, under 10 years old.
Yeah, but you can't prove that, Dr. Reisman. And those who preside at the Kinsey Institute today are appalled at the, some might say, libelous charges that you make, not only about the work done by the late Dr. Kinsey, but also by some who follow him. We should also tell you that Indiana University, a very proud conservative institution of higher learning in America, stands by this institute, and most of the people who survive today, who worked with Dr. Kinsey, identify him as an honorable man who abused nobody, touched nobody, and not surprisingly was the subject of controversy on the occasion of the publication of his book about men in 1948 and women in 1953. You can't prove that that he abused children?
I think that the book establishes that there was abuse that took place without any question. He admitted that. He admitted that in the book. And if, in fact, it wasn't true...
What did he say that admitted that?
Oh, boy, do I wish... He said he described 9 technically trained men. He called them technically trained men who he said were sexually stimulated. He said they had sexual relationships with young boys and that they were the source of all of his data.
Huh, okay. I don't remember that in the TV series.
Right. And you hear how Phil Donahue is running protection against for Kinsey.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds very similar to how Whoopi Goldberg was running interference for Roman Polanski.
And yet
you can't prove that. You know, that's kind of...
But see, it's even, I mean, not for one way or the other. I mean, we take Wikipedia for what it is, but it's right there in Wikipedia. It says it right there about the children.
There it is. I
mean, Wikipedia, you know, they like to take stuff off, stuff like this. So I'm just saying that it is there. Yeah, he was researching children and observing orgasms in over 300 children aged from 2 months up to 15 years old.
So how do you, I don't even want to think about it, but I'm just saying, now you understand, like, even in 1990, just for people that went around, Phil Donahue was mainstream daytime television.
Mm-hmm.
This is not some, obscure, clip. This was on mainstream television in the daytime. And he's clearly running interference for Kinsey and the University of Indiana, which he calls a conservative university. So it's not across a spectrum of liberal conservative either.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get into the second clip from that show?
Sure.
He described screaming and fainting and convulsions. He described children who were striking what he called the partner. That was the man who was abusing the children. And then he drew from that conclusion himself, Phil. He drew from that conclusion himself that the children enjoyed the experience. That's blaming the victim. You know what that is.
This audience, you are entitled to have me identify my own bias here right at the beginning.
Okay.
I admire what the Kinsey Institute does.
I know.
I am personally familiar with its director and have worked with her, and she has made a very important contribution to a series that I was proud to have my name on in 1986. And not a few people who support the Kinsey Institute have questioned your credentials.
Of course they do. I would if I had the investment they have.
Mr. Reisman, Phil, happens to be the most repudiated PhD in America. First of all, Phil, sure, her work has been rejected by the Justice Department that ate their $800,000 grant.
So you're supporting Meese now.
Secondly,
this is a spokesman for Meese now.
The American, please, Judith, the American University also rejected her study.
Yeah.
The Meese Commission refused to cite it.
I don't think you've ever been published, have you, in a scientific journal?
Yes,
never.
I certainly. Never. How about ethology and sociobiology? Is that scientific enough for you?
But did you not spend a good deal of time writing music for Captain Kangaroo?
Oh my God!
But,
wow, she was. They brought her on to take her down.
Exactly.
And yet, all of that she's saying is reported here with sources in
his book.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's in sources, because he wrote about it exactly in his book. And yet they're taking him down. Like, you're not a PhD. You're not even been published. Don't you writing Captain Kangaroo music?
Doesn't it sound very similar to what we're hearing now?
Shocking.
Like, you're not a real doctor. Where's your credentials?
Mm-hmm.
But you see, when the power structure wants to protect somebody,
it goes all in.
So now, when you look at the other side, and people want to say, "Well, we need to protect Bill Cosby because the net of it is, he was good for black people." I'm not saying. Let me be very clear. I am not saying that. But when you see this and hear this protection of Hugh Hefner, of Kinsey, of whoever, Roman Polanski, we've heard case by case by case by case of protecting these men. But America's dad got to go.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. Either all bad or all good.
He did something. He didn't do something right. Not in the club. I don't know. That's really odd. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And that's from 1990. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and get up to speed with the Almanac. I think this is CBS Morning on Alfred Kinsey.
And now a page from our Sunday Morning Almanac, June 23rd, 1894, 125 years ago today. The day sex researcher Alfred Charles Kinsey was born in Hoboken, New Jersey. A trained biologist, Kinsey achieved fame, even notoriety, in the 1940s and 50s with a pair of best-selling books about male and female sexual behavior. Controversial research he defended on scientific grounds.
I discovered that there was practically nothing known about human sexual behavior in comparison with what we knew about the sexual behavior of other animals.
Kinsey based his eye-opening findings on thousands of personal interviews, training his researchers to first put their subjects at ease, as portrayed in the 2004 film Kinsey, starring Liam Neeson.
If you ease in with innocuous questions, people forget they're giving sex histories.
Many of Kinsey's findings and techniques remain controversial, including his occasional reliance on the accounts of admitted child abusers. Still, he's widely hailed as a trailblazer in a previously taboo field. Alfred Kinsey died in 1956 at the age of 62. Today, the research he pioneered continues at the Kinsey Institute at Indiana University in Bloomington.
We should go take a little look-see over there. Research is coming along, Indiana.
So there you have it. That's the show on Bill Cosby and his counterparts. My final thoughts on this whole situation, I think they were all into some kinky, even criminal sexual behavior, but it was allowed. And as we've seen here, for some people, it's still their past is not allowed to be brought up. But for Bill's case, he was a very useful patsy or sacrificial lamb to be taken down for MeToo to show that, hey, we got one of the big ones. So even still, he was allowed to get out. So
that's the Boulay phone, Mo. It's like they'd like us to stop now. They think we've taken this far enough.
I think they have. That might be the big phone. That might be the white phone.
Oh, okay. It's that one. That's how it is, huh? All right.
No, what I mean is, like, when you start touching on Kinsey and Hugh Hefner, that's a whole different phone that rings.
Mo, thank you so much, man. That was great. That was really, really enjoyable. So much fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Adam. And as I always say, pay attention to everything and the truth will reveal itself.
And we thank y'all for being here, and we'll be here in 14 days. Make sure you tune in. Moe Factz with Adam Curry.
It's strange how sometimes, you be getting the hint and you don't really want to look at it. It's like the hint was a lot of looking me right in the face. I should have known something was wrong. Like, when I get up in the morning to kiss you, you just kind of give a throwaway kiss. Like when I said, how was today? You just kind of say, fine, and go ahead. I should have known when you be off on the telephone in the corner, kind of whispering, so I don't hear. I should have known when you hold my hand and it just didn't mean nothing. was on the telephone, talking low. I should have known when I kiss you in the morning and you don't kiss back. I should have known when I said, how's everything going? How you just say, nothing. I should have known when you look at me and your eyes don't stay.